And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. Sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. Sterlingsoap.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
My starting two guard. My starting one guard, man, Jay Williams, man. Jay Williams.
Okay. You're going to pick Jay Williams over Bobby Hurley. Really?
Every day.
Really? Bobby Hurley, 12 points a game, 8 assists, 1993 All-American, two-time national champ, back-to-back national champs.
Okay.
Now, they went back-to-back national champs.
Now,
Jay Williams, what did he win?
Okay.
I mean, he was a damn good point guard. No lie. I mean, again, take everything away to what did not happen in the pros. Okay. And awesome analyst, awesome player when he was at Duke. I can't take Bobby Hurley off in place of Jay Williams. I can't.
Okay. Now just listen to me. Now I see flames from your nostrils. But as far as on leg on and say, hey boy, listen to me when I look at me when I talk to you, son.
Sports from back in the day. From Atlanta, it's Dana on the mic, talking old school legends, bringing history to life. We go deep like a spiral in the Superdome. Back when athletes left the game due to talking alone. Jordan fadeaways, Jackie in the zone, Ali in the ring, man, he stood all alone. From the Negro Leagues to the ABA, we break it all down, yeah, the classic way. It's Charles from the district, straight out the boot. Southern University pride, repping truth in the booth. From Baton Rouge to the nation's capital, legends on deck. Yeah, we factual tales of the greats, gold chains and all. Baseball, who dreams in that football brawl? No clickbait, no fluff, just the facts we say. It's historically speaking, sports from back in the game. So sit back, tune in, and hit replay. It's historically speaking sports, the classic way.
Welcome to March. As a sports fan, and more specifically a basketball fan, the month of March consists of making brackets and then after the first 4 days of the tournament, ripping up those very same brackets. It is a month of hoops, last-second buzzer beaters, and ultimately one shining moment. For us here at the Historically Speaking Sports Podcast, the month of March also means looking back on the best that the sport of college basketball has to offer. From the Indiana Hoosiers' perfect season to Christian Laettner's game winner against Kentucky and the unrivaled dominance of the UCLA Bruins led by Lew Alcindor, later Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, and of course the Wizard of Westwood, John Wooden. Yet in this episode, we're going to be treading into dangerous waters. Hello everyone, this is Dana Augusta and my co-host Charles Combs will be along shortly, and this is the Historically Speaking Sports Podcast, the place where we give you the best of sports from back in the day. Those so-called dangerous waters that we will be drifting into in this episode is us putting together the starting five, one bench player, and the coach of 12 of the most prestigious college basketball programs in history. Some of the questions we will be tackling: who starts at point guard for Georgetown, Allen Iverson or Eric Sleepy Floyd? Who will team up with Michael Jordan at the University of North Carolina? Which two supremely talented guards will make up the backcourt for the University of Arizona, which has a very rich history at those positions? And which of the 5 Kentucky coaches that have won championships in Lexington will be tapped to be the head coach of the ultimate collection of Wildcats? All those questions and much more will be answered in this episode. But there's a point to all of this. This is only part 1 of a 2-part series. After we put together the teams with lineups filled with legendary players, in part 2 we will construct a 12-team bracket and Charles and I will predict the winner of the tournament. Then, with the help of artificial intelligence, it will determine a winner, and we will compare our predictions with AI. So how close we will come is yet to be seen, but in this episode, Charles and I will discuss, and in some cases debate, who is most deserving to be on their alma mater's greatest collection of hoops talent. So sit back and prepare to be either in agreement or in total outrage on who we select for the first annual Historically Speaking Sports Alumni Basketball Tournament, right here on the Sports History Network.
Hey there. Welcome to Music Meets Sports, where sports legends meet custom soundtracks. Founded by music producer Ronald Tyke Oliver, Music Meets Sports was created to bridge generations, educate fans, and celebrate the greatness of both current and former athletes. We craft original songs about heroes in basketball, football, baseball, boxing, and beyond, highlighting their struggles and victories. Across all musical genres, we reintroduce fans to their favorite athletes in a way they've never heard before. From Babe Ruth to Reggie White, from rising WNBA stars to timeless NFL great stream, or download our music now on Apple Music, Amazon, and Spotify. Visit musicmeetsports.org to explore the catalog, hear new releases, and join the movement that's preserving sports history, one song at a time.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this all-new edition of the Historically Speaking Sports Podcast here on the Sports History Network. I am your co-host, Dana Augusta, and once again joined by Charles Combs, my partner in Sports History Crime, as we come to you tonight to do something that I think not too many people have even thought about doing on a podcast level, but I think that this is going to, I think there's going to be a really, really good episode. This is somewhat of this was a brainchild of actually Chuck's. This is Chuck's idea to do. And I know that he's a lot of times he come up with some really, really good ideas. And I think that this is one of them. And we're putting together something kind of different, something that no one really has ever done. And Chuck, first of all, thank you for joining us once again. Glad to see you once again on this Sunday night after they've announced the 68-team tournament, the 68-team field of the NCAA tournament, where all roads will end up in Indianapolis this year once again. Chuck, thank you for joining us again here tonight.
Yes, sir. Just looking forward to it. Been a long but a great day. Been in church all day, but ready to cap it off with something really good. And man, our alum, we just cannot get over the hump and win that SWAC conference tournament championship to get in that field of 68. We just can't do it, man. But
right.
Anyway,
this year was Prairie View.
I know. And then last year they were like the number 1 seed and got the bye and lost in the quarterfinal round. So it's like, man, come on, y'all. Like, man, for real. But anyway, I'm just happy to be here as always, and always excited to talk shop with my brother, man, my brother in crime, man. So looking forward to tonight's episode, and I think you and I will have a lot of fun, and I think the listeners will have a plethora of fun as well.
Right. And what we're doing here tonight is we're putting together actually a 12 team tournament of the 12 best, most well known, most prestigious college basketball programs. We put together like an all time team. What we call it an alumni tournament. That's what we're going to call it. The Historically Speaking Sports Alumni Tournament Selection Show. And this is part one of a 2-episode series that we're going to do. And Chuck, I mean, this, like I said, this was your brainchild. This is something that you came up with, which I thought was a really good idea. Just go ahead and go a little bit more in depth in what you thought about with this episode.
It was just something that I've always pondered for, like you mentioned before, a dozen programs, some of the most prestigious programs, also some of these teams, which the larger than life coaches, legendary coaches, larger than life players, legendary players, and just sort of a thing of, okay, what if we took the best of the best from every school, no matter when they played, how long they played, just throw them all on one squad like an all-time alumni team, and we'll just kind of flesh out in terms of who would come out on top. Now, a key caveat to this is, for our listeners to understand, is there's not going to be any pro bias in this,
right?
Because it's kind of difficult, or rather easy, to kind of take into account who's the better player based on how their professional careers played out. Yeah. But we're focusing strictly on college careers because, as we'll get into, there's a lot of instances in which the guy that wound up being the better pro player, a more dominant pro player, he wasn't the better college player.
Right. That's right.
So, and that's what we're focusing on, strictly in terms of the college, the player that they were in college. And then we're going to flesh out, basically, we kind of made it parallel to the concept of the 12-team NCAA football playoff.
Yes.
We're going to have 12 teams, 4 byes, 8 others, and then we're just gonna flow all the way through until we can, on a consensus level, reach a national champion, not only in terms of the team that would win, but also today we're going to reach a consensus on what the teams would consist of, mostly for the players, but also in some instances, coaches, because you did have some of these programs that have had multiple very good legendary coaches. So we're going to flesh all of that out today. So stay tuned, folks.
Okay. And like I said, this is going to be a 2-episode series. Okay. The first episode, which is what you're listening to now, we're going to debate on who's going to be on these teams, on these 12 elite blue blood type programs. And I have them listed by seed as according to the number of championships they have won. Okay. And I will get through that in a second. Also, the top 4 teams, like you said, Chuck, get buys. And we're going to discuss who's going to be on these teams in this episode. And I think there's going to be a lot of debate there, come up with a consensus. The teams are going to be made up essentially of a starting 5, 1 reserve player, and a coach. That's going to be made up of, that's what the teams are going to be made up of tonight. Now, part 2, which will come out right after this one, part 2, I will go through like everybody else does for March Madness, fill out a bracket for this particular episode. We will go game by game, who we think will win in each particular game, all the way up to a national championship. Chuck will do that, as well as myself. But also through the aid of artificial intelligence, through AI, I will have AI determine who will win a national championship based on those teams, the way that team is put together, their stats, everything. So it should be very interesting part 2 to this as well. So part 1, I think we're going to have a lot of arguments, I think, in this one, a lot of debates. I'm looking forward to some of this going on. So allow me to introduce the teams that are going to be in their seeding, okay? And in the tradition of the tournament, we do it just like this. Seed number 1 goes to the UCLA Bruins. The number 2 seed, the Kentucky Wildcats. The number 3 seed, the Yukon Huskies. The 4th seed, North Carolina Tar Heels. 5th seed will be the Indiana Hoosiers. 6th seed, Kansas Jayhawks. 7th seed is the Duke Blue Devils. 8th seed, Michigan State Spartans. 9th seed, Syracuse Orange. The 10th seed would be the Georgetown Hoyas. The 11th seed would be the Arizona Wildcats. And rounding up the group, the 12th seed, the LSU Tigers. And, of course, we included them because we're homers. Okay? We're homers.
Deal with it.
We're homers. So those are the groups. LSU is the 12th seed. And without further ado, there's anything else before we get into this?
Yeah, one other thing, like you mentioned, it may be some debate on that last seed, but, I'm a big wrestling fan. So, I'm not, I'm just saying this playfully, but to those that may not like LSU being the 12th seed, in the words of the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, 4 Horsemen, baby, it's just 2 things you can do. You can love it or you can learn to love it, baby. We're going, the LSU Tigers are the 12th seed, because, we kind of decided, though, even though they, in some respects, they haven't consistently been one of the top programs, but they've had some of the most larger-than-life players.
Yes. As we mentioned in our last episode, some of the most memorable, most larger-than-life players and a larger-than-life head coach.
Yeah, and to make it plain, they've had a lot of ballers.
That's right.
Let's get
That's right. So, to kick things off, we're going to start with the number 1 seed, which is the UCLA Bruins. And before each one of these, I will go through like a little quick snapshot, a resume, if you will, of their history, their historic resume. And for UCLA, it doesn't get much better than this. As a matter of fact, it doesn't get better than this. 11 national championships. Of those 11 national championships, they won 10 of those in the space of 12 seasons. 7 consecutive national titles, which spanned from 1967 through 1973. During that stretch, they won 38 consecutive games in the tournament, which included an 88-game winning streak. They had 54 consecutive winning seasons from 1949 through 2002. So, again, it doesn't get any better than that. Okay, and now what we're going to do, Chuck, is I'm going to go through my 6 players and head coach, and then you tell me if there's any difference or any kind of discrepancy that you may have, okay? Starting things off, my point guard, Gail Goodrich. Shooting guard, Reggie Miller. Small forward, Ed O'Bannon. Power forward, Bill Walton. Center, Lew Alcindor, also known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. My reserve is Marcus Johnson. And, of course, the head coach, the Wizard of Westwood, John Wooden.
Okay. I have some differences here. So I'll go through them. Okay. As we mentioned, for our viewers, a little peek behind the curtain, we did not divulge any of our selections Friday, but we did have a conversation Friday afternoon in terms of, in some instances, it was like, damn, it's much harder to whittle this down than we thought it did. Then in other instances, it was like, okay, it was much easier to whittle it down than we thought. Now here, they've had a lot of great players, but I do have some differences. Okay. Number 1, point guard, Gail Goodrich. You and I, boom, we're on one card there. Number 2, who you say, Reggie Miller? For the 2 guard, I did not have him. I don't have Reggie Miller. What I decided to do, what we were kind of talking about, was there are some instances in which some of the schools historically are very guard heavy, and others are very big heavy. So with UCLA, it seems like they were more obviously front court heavy, as opposed to guards. So I don't have Reggie Miller. I have Gail Goodrich at point. At forward, I got old Jamal Silk Wilkes. Then at the other forward, I got Sidney Wicks. I got Sidney Wicks there. Then obviously the other 2 choices, I don't care if they both play center or not, but these are both no-brainers. Bill Walton and Lew Alcindor, a.k.a. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Lew Alcindor. So
Okay.
I have that. Now, okay, before we kind of discuss our differences, what were your what criteria did you place? Like, eyeball tests.
A lot of it was
legacy.
eyeball tests. A lot of it was statistics. Okay, like for example, Reggie Miller, 17 points per game and was a 2-time All Pac-12 selection. Okay. Ed O'Bannon, he won a national championship. Okay. Now all of the players that you've described, okay, for UCLA had won championships. Okay. I could take Reggie Miller off in place of Silk Wilkes. I could do that, even though I would have I take that back. I'd rather take off Ed O'Bannon.
Caveat.
Yeah, I would rather take off.
Caveat for me without cutting you off, because I did mention my 5. I mentioned my 5 starters, but I neglected to mention my reserve. My reserve is Ed O'Bannon. Right. Now, this is where it was very difficult at. I wrestled back and forth in terms my starters. I kind of came to that fairly easily, but Ed O'Bannon, Marcus Johnson. That's where I was stuck at in terms of that reserve role. That's why, because to your point, okay, they both won championships, but Ed O'Bannon also won Player of the Year.
Yes, he did.
And
he did win National Player of the Year.
Then when you go with Miller, okay, he's 2-time All Pac-10, and that was if I remember correctly, that was the Walt Hazzard era when he was the coach.
Yes.
They had Walt Hazzard. I remember Walt Hazzard, Pooh Richardson, Trevor Wilson, those guys. I remember that in the 80s. But Reggie doesn't have an All-American bid. He doesn't have a title, nor does he have a Player of the Year. All he has is the 2-time
Pac-12.
Pac-12. Now, in defense of him at the time, that was when Arizona really began to take off as a program. And in
the 80s like also, you heard some stuff. You heard some noise from Oregon State too in the Pac-12, in the Pac-10.
Correct.
Yeah, you heard it was the emergence of Lew Olson in Arizona in the 80s. It was right around the time that Oregon State had a really great thing going on, in Corvallis. So, it was just a really, really interesting time in the Pac-12 in the mid 80s when Reggie Miller played. I could see. What would you think? Do you think Keith Wilkes would be a good shooting guard, or because I can't see putting Ed O'Bannon anywhere else except a small forward. I can't see it.
Yeah, he's that small forward, but I have him as the reserve. So I was going to put Jamal Wilkes there, and then you look at this, right? Excluding O'Bannon and Gail Goodrich, right? Lew Alcindor, 3 All-Americans, 3 titles, 3 Player of the Years. Bill Walton, 3 All-Americans, 2 titles, 3 Player of the Years. Sidney Weeks, he twice All-American, 3 titles, 1 Player of the Year. Jamal Wilkes, 2 All-Americans, 2 titles. And then it's just kind of hard for me to throw Reggie in there. As great as he was, because once again, we're kind of, it's easy. Now, I'm focusing on the college proficiency.
Right.
Everybody knows what he did.
Everybody knows what he did when he was in the NBA. Everybody knows that. Correct. So if you had to put somebody at small forward, okay, we're talking about Jamal Wilkes. We're talking about who else? Ed O'Bannon.
Sidney Weeks.
Sidney Weeks. That's another one. Sidney Weeks was a true guard.
So we could put Sidney Weeks at the 2 and Jamal Wilkes at the 3. And
move Ed O'Bannon to the reserve.
That's what I intended. Now I don't want to make this too drawn out, but like you had things like Reggie Miller, Kevin Love played there, Russell Westbrook. I didn't even have Westbrook for consideration. Kevin Love, I did because he was Pac-12 Player of the Year.
Yeah.
And won All-American, but I quickly dismissed him. So I also had David Greenwood for consideration as well, but I quickly dismissed him. And I want this to be a true consensus. So who else did you have? Who else did you have you gave reasonable consideration to make the squad, period?
I'm surprised you didn't mention Swin Nader. I'm surprised you didn't mention him.
I thought about Swin Nader, but it was like, okay, we already got Walton and Alcindor.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's how come I was kind of like, well,
I was thinking about putting Swin Nader as a reserve, and then Marcus Johnson kept like clicking in my head. Sidney Wicks, I did consider strongly as a 2 guard. Also had Kiki Vandeweghe.
He was,
and also had
make a title game. He didn't win it.
And I also had Gail Goodrich's backcourt in the mid-'60s, Walt Hazard.
I had him for consideration as well, but I dismissed him quickly. Now, look, if you want to throw Swin Nader in that reserve, you're not going to get an argument from me because he was a baller.
No, because what I have is, from our discussions, this is the vibe I'm getting from you. Point guard Gail Goodrich, shooting guard Sidney Wicks, small forward Keith Wilkes, power forward Bill Walton, center Lew Alcindor, and our reserve is Ed O'Bannon. How's that?
That's what I have right now. But like I told you back and forth, like I told you before, I went back and forth for that reserve.
That sounds like a really good team.
Marcus Johnson.
Yeah. So, but the thing about Marcus Johnson in that 75 final, in that 75 championship run, he was hurt for most of that time. And plus he was only like a sophomore, because you had Dave Myers. That's why I was so reluctant to put Marcus Johnson, because he was a sophomore in 75. They did win the national championship, but it was also the team with Dave Myers and also had a team with Richard Washington. Okay, so he was like a really good player, but he wasn't his
centerpiece.
He wasn't at his full power yet. And plus he was hurt for most of that 75 Final Four.
Okay, and you had Ed O'Bannon, who carried his bum brother Charles.
Yeah.
So, well, he could dunk though. He could
dunk. Yeah, that's it.
Bailey could blap too. Yeah. So yeah, and I figured I gave Ed O'Bannon the nod over Marcus because he obviously he was the driving force of that championship team, and he's the player of the year that year as well. So I gave a slight nod to him because of those things.
Okay, so for UCLA, we have Gail Goodrich at point, Sidney Wicks at the shooting guard, Keith Wilkes at small forward, power forward Bill Walton, center Lew Alcindor, and the reserve is Ed O'Bannon.
Okay.
That works for me, bro.
All right.
That works for me. So now that is UCLA. Now we're moving on to the number 2 seed in our alumni tournament, and that is the Kentucky Wildcats. 8 NCAA national championships, most wins in the history of college basketball as a program, highest winning percentage in history. 5 different head coaches had won national titles for them with 61 tournament appearances. So, University of Kentucky, it is your turn to go first. So, who was your 6 and your head coach?
Okay, my 6 are as follows. I had to do some extensive research for this, but then
so did I.
It came out kind of easy for me. Center, Anthony Davis. I know you're gonna be. He played 1 year. He was player of the year and he won the title the 1 year he played. You know, I got Anthony Davis. Power forward, no brainer. Dan Issel, easy money. Dan Issel. No titles, no player of the years, but Dan Issel is Dan Issel. I did an extensive deep dive, averaged 25.8 points, 12.9 rebounds for his career. Best seasons was 33.9 points and 13 boards for his career. So Dan Issel is my power forward.
Okay.
Small forward, I could possibly be talked off of this one. Got Kenny Skywalker.
Okay.
For my power forward, he's a 2-time All-American. They didn't win anything. That was in the middle of the Joe B. Hall / Eddie Sutton.
Yep.
Eddie Sutton run. He averaged 15.8, 7 boards a game, 1.2 assists, nearly a block and a steal a game, and his best year was 23.9, 10.2 boards a game. So, but that's whatever. My small forward, my shooting guard is a guy who is truly a small forward, but has he can play 1 through 3. Monster Mash Jamal Mashburn. I got the Monster Mash because you got to factor in he had 1 All-American, then he had he made the Final Four in '93. Should have been twice if not for that shot
by Christian Laettner
in the '92 East Final in Philadelphia. Should have been twice, but I got him because you got to factor in the fact that with Pitino, he was part of the Unforgettables. The Unforgettables that resurrected Kentucky Wildcat basketball from the death penalty nearly installed with the fallout from the Chris Mills. Now, why are you gonna go through all of that for Chris Mills is beyond me. He was solid, but you don't want to. If it's Lynn Bias or somebody, Sean Kemp, I get it. But Chris Mills, man, come on, dog. But anyway, and then my point guard, I got Kyle Macy for my point guard.
Who is your shooting guard?
My shooting guard is Jamal Mashburn.
Okay.
Now, I gave and I'm sorry, and my reserve is Jack Givens. Jack Givens is my reserve because he won a title. He was a baller. Now, I'll just briefly go through this. For my guards, I gave very strong consideration for the following 4. 2 of them I watched play. The other 2, I just got the research. I gave strong consideration for Jody Meeks and Tony Delk. Also, through my research, some ballers of the past, well before our time, Cliff Hagan, Louis Dampier, and Ralph Beard. But the key thing for me was I kept looking at, you played in that era like in the 30s and 40s. You're shooting well below 50% from the field. So it's like, okay, man, like, so, so you shot less than 50% then. If I put you in against, like Jordan, cats like that, what is it going to be now? Like 15%, you know what I mean? I gave strong consideration for Cotton Nash at center, but I quickly was like, okay, he didn't win the title to my recollection. And as a center, he's only 6'5". So I stuck with Anthony Davis. I know you're probably going to be like, okay, what is going on? No Sam Bowie, no Dinner Bell, Mel Turpin, no LaRon Ellis, and LaRon Ellis was a bum. But anyway, those mine. Your points of dissension, please.
I'm gonna be honest with you. We got Kyle Macy and Goose Givens in common. As far as I got Kyle Macy as my starting point guard, and I got Goose Givens as my reserve. But everything else is different.
Damn. Okay.
Everything else is different. My shooting guard is Tony Delk. 14 points per game, 3-time All-SEC. Okay, that's my shooting guard. I got Jamal Mashburn on the team, but I got him as a small forward.
Makes sense.
Okay. My power forward is Tayshaun Prince. 13 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3-time All-SEC, 2001 All-SEC Player of the Year.
How many SEC Players of the Year?
1.
Any titles? No, he
didn't win. He didn't win the championship. He didn't win the championship at Kentucky. But I got Dan Issel, but I got him at center.
Okay.
I got Dan Issel at center. 25.8 points per game, 13 rebounds a game, 2-time All-American, 2-time consensus All-American.
Okay. Did Tayshaun have any All-American? Because I didn't even put Tayshaun on my list. I'm not gonna lie.
No, he was not an All-American. He was not an All-American at all. And I would go. I had Anthony Davis for serious consideration. But at the time, I'm like, Dan Issel did more. He played longer. He's more accomplished other than a national championship, So I could move Dan Issel to power forward.
Well, Dan Issel wasn't coming off for me.
No, I could move Dan Issel. I have no problem taking off Tayshaun Prince. I have no problem taking off Tayshaun Prince.
But I can give you like that Kenny Walker slot, like I said before. I can concede that to you because, like, even though Tony Delk will hoop it, and I don't want to spoil this too much because we might revisit this at some point.
Right.
He was the leader on one of the strongest teams I have seen in our lifetime, which is that 96 Kentucky team, which was a darn juggernaut.
Right.
That 96 Kentucky team was a juggernaut. And you have to agree with me that with the exception of maybe a handful of teams, probably most of the champions in our lifetime, they run out the building, 90% of them easily.
Right. And, and also you had Antoine Walker on that team.
But I didn't get Twan because even though he was on that team, like Twan, Derek Anderson, what's the boy, Ron Mercer. Yeah. I didn't take them because, Twan, even though he won the title, he was 2 years and out.
Yeah.
He was out. Now, obviously, he had the talent and the ability, but I can concede that Kenny Walker, if you want Tony Delk at that 2 and you slide Mashburn to the 3 over Kenny Walker, I'm cool.
Okay.
I'm cool.
Okay. So let's do this. Okay. We're in agreement with Kyle Macy as the starting point guard.
Absolutely. No brainer.
And we're in the consensus of having Jack Goose Givens as a reserve.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. And we have Tony Delk at the 2.
All right.
Jamal Mashburn at 3.
Okay.
And at the 4, Dan Issel, and 5, Anthony Davis.
That works for me. I gave a little mine. I conceded. You conceded, and we kind of met in the middle a little bit. I can see that. How does that work for you? Because I mean, you conceded a lot for me on UCLA, so I'm willing to concede a little more for you over here. You know what I mean?
So this is the team that we have for Kentucky. Kyle Macy at point, Tony Delk at shooting guard, Jamal Mashburn at small forward, Dan Issel at power forward, and Anthony Davis at center.
Okay.
That
works for me.
Got Goose Givens as a reserve. Now, who's your coach?
Oh, my coach? You know me. I'm the type of person that I don't allow personal things to override what's best or what someone rightfully earned. I don't necessarily have to like a person to give them their just due.
Right.
So with that being said, my coach is old racist Adolph Rump.
Yeah, the Baron of the Brugger. That's who I have, and I had to
He's the best coach.
Yeah, he's the best coach. I mean, you look at all of the coaches that have won championships at Kentucky. Outside of Rupp, you had Pitino, you had Joe B. Hall, you had Tubby Smith, you had Rick Pitino. I mean, and John Calipari. So by far, Rupp is head and shoulders above all of them.
And Rupp Arena is synonymous. Everybody knows what Rupp Arena is, and I mean. He made, and I didn't know the man personally, but heard he was a racist or whatever. But I'm not, we're not going out to dinner with the dude. We need somebody to coach the team.
These are the people that I had. These are the people that I had in consideration. Okay, Anthony Epps, Ron Mercer, Wayne Turner. Oh, I had Anthony Davis. I for like a half a second considered John Wall and Sean Woods.
Sean Woods was good. I never had, like, most of the one and dones that came in under Calipari, I considered none of them. Right. Because they didn't really, like Booker, Wall, DeMarcus Cousins. I none of them under strong consideration. And Anthony, even though he was just there a year.
He won the national championship. He was the centerpiece of that Kentucky team that won the title.
And he made his mark in Kentucky lore. He made his mark. If you go to Rupp Arena and go through the archives and all of that, and take a tour of the history, he's going to be encased within that, where I feel like these other guys are not. Now, one of my favorite players was like Rex Chapman. I loved him as a kid, but I didn't have him for consideration. I didn't have Rex Chapman, nor anybody like that. I pretty much had Beard, Groza, Nash, Dampier, Hagan, Walker, Mashburn, Meeks, Givens, Delk, Macy, Davis, and Issel. That's all I had for consideration.
Not Pat Riley.
He wasn't a great player. He was on.
He won National Player of the Year in '66.
He did.
Yep.
I didn't know that. I always thought he was always a backup or whatever. I didn't know Riles was a baller.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't have him under consideration due to ignorance. I'll admit that.
The third one, the number 3 seed that we have moving on, is UConn. This one gave me so many fits because if you really sit and think about it, they're like the most successful basketball program in the last 25 years. Take this in consideration. They won 6 NCAA titles in only 7 Final Four appearances in that time period. Okay? They won it with 3 different coaches, and these 3 coaches are never really considered the greatest, the top echelon of coaches. Okay, 37 tournament appearances in the history of their program. Okay, and it's a program that has been overshadowed big time by the women's program. So much so that I actually consider Gino Auriemma as the coach of this team. You know, and I'm not making a joke. That's serious. Okay, but I didn't go there. Okay. These are my, since you went last, it's my turn now. These are my starters for UConn. Point guard, I have Shabazz Napier. Shooting guard, Ray Allen. Small forward, Richard Hamilton. Power forward, Danielle Marshall. Center, Emeka Okafor. And my reserve is Ben Gordon. My head coach is Jim Calhoun.
Okay. We're pretty close on this.
Okay.
I have, who did you say? You said Rip. You had Ray Allen, Rip Hamilton, Okafor, and Danielle Marshall as starters, right?
Yes.
We're pretty much spot on with each other. Only difference is at that point guard spot, instead of Shabazz Napier, I had Kemba Walker.
I could be moved off of. I could be moved with Kemba Walker did in the Big East tournament that one particular year in that 6 overtime. Actually, the whole Big East tournament that year. You know, I could be talked out of Shabazz Napier.
Okay, and who did you have for your reserve? Yeah, Ben Gordon.
Ben Gordon.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna tell you who I had. Okay, so I had Kemba Walker at the point, Ray at the 2, Okafor at the center, Rip Hamilton as the 3rd guard, and Danielle Marshall at the power forward. That's what I had. Now, other people I had in consideration was Scotty Burrell, Ben Gordon, Rudy Gay, Hashim to beat. I quickly dismissed him because I quickly got him up out of there. Tristan Newton and Chris Smith and Karan Butler. Now, I wound up selecting as the reserve Chris Smith.
Okay.
And I'm going to explain to you why. Because you remember, as you mentioned, right? Connecticut is arguably the most successful program of the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember correctly, in those 80s, in the mid 80s, early and mid 80s, they were one of the worst programs in all of college basketball.
Yeah.
They were
the perennial doormat of the Big East.
They were awful.
Yeah.
Then what was the first signs of emergence and respectability and making the tournament and making deep tournament runs? It coincided with the arrival of Coach Jim Calhoun and Chris Smith. He brought them to respectability, hence why I picked him. Now, he averaged 16.9 for his career. His best year, he averaged 21. But But with Ben Gordon off the bench, that he was a specialist. That was his specialty. So you're not going to get any argument from me anyway. So how about this? How about if you concede the point, I concede the reserve? How about that?
Deal.
Let's go.
Okay. So your point guard was Kemba Walker.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'll take off Chris Smith, and then Ben Gordon to be our reserve because, that was his specialty, not even taking into account his pro career. But, the man was a walking bucket. The man gets buckets.
And you have, and who is your coach? I had Jim Calhoun as coach.
Oh, Jim Calhoun, without question. That was one of the ones where I initially thought between he and Hurley, it might be kind of tough to whittle that down. But then when I start thinking about the circumstances, when Hurley came, even though UConn had a little down, they were still a power program. Yeah. Whereas when Calhoun arrived, they were nothing. And he brought them to respectability and national prominence and excellence out of nothing. They were the equivalent of the Cubs or the Saints in college basketball. You know, and he brought them all the way up. So he got the nod for coach, and I didn't even give that a second thought. That was easy for me.
Okay. Players I had for consideration, I had Caron Butler. I had Kemba Walker. I had Tate George. I had Khalid Al-Amin.
Bum.
I had Diana Taurasi, also Maya Moore, and also Paige Beckers. So that just lets you know how good the women's program was. That I was actually considered them to be part of this.
Now hold it. If you wanted to put Maya Moore on that reserve, I might be like, okay, because I love me some Maya Moore in more ways than one too.
Right on.
I love me some Maya Moore. She could hoop. Not all of them could hoop, but I used to love in particular. I loved in particular Maya Moore, and I didn't watch a lot of WNBA, but those battles that she used to have when she was with the Minnesota versus when what's the girl name? The tall girl, light-skinned girl with the Sparks. She's Candace Parker. Yeah. Those battles they used to have in the finals for like a two to 4 year period were great. So I could be talking to Maya Moore as that reserve, But
so just to close the book on the UConn chapter of this program, this is what we have. We have point guard Kemba Walker, shooting guard Ray Allen, small forward Richard Hamilton, power forward Danielle Marshall, center Emeka Okafor, and the reserve Ben Gordon, with Jim Calhoun as the head coach.
Okay.
That's a pretty good squad there, man.
That sounds pretty not bad at all. But what appealed to you about Shabazz Napier? I'm interested.
He was two-time NCAA champ. He won 2 titles with UConn. Okay, 14 points per game. He was a very good floor leader, very underrated, doing his career. I mean, when he played, all of the attention went to Okafor and all the attention went to Ben Gordon, that group. But he was the one who kept it all together with Shabazz Napier.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Now, your turn, and we go into the 4th seed in our alumni tournament. And this one was just an absolute embarrassment of riches. And we're talking about the University of North Carolina. I think we're going to have a lot of differences on here. And this for one position, it was so hard for me because I had to choose between like 4 people for this one position.
This one was very, very hard because once again, based on our premise, a lot of it was the eye test, eyeball test. But then you also got to take into consideration what the person did. Yeah. Regardless of the eyeball test, you have to take into consideration what the individual did, and then also take into consideration, exclude from consideration rather, NBA success or lack thereof. Right. You had to leave that out. So without further ado, this is what we got.
Okay, before we do that, let's give a little snapshot of the program.
Okay.
6 national championships, 134 tournament wins, 31 Sweet 16s, 21 Final Fours, 12 title games, and I love this stat. They've played in the national championship game at least once in 9 consecutive decades. So that's excellence beyond reproach.
That Dean Smith boy.
You know. And so, without further ado, Chuck, who was your 6 players and head coach?
Okay. Oh boy, this was hard. All right, we're gonna start off with the 2 no-brainers, right?
Okay.
Well, 3 no-brainers to me. Pretty much 4, but definitely 3 no-brainers.
Okay.
2 guard, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
No questions asked. Small forward / power forward. Big game James.
Okay.
You know, James Worthy. Okay. My point guard. You know, and they've had some good ones. They had Ed Cota. They've had Kenny Smith. They've had what's that other boy name? I don't remember his name. King Rice. He was okay.
Yeah.
He was a scrub kind of though. I settled on Phil Ford for my point guard. Now this is where it gets kind of dicey. I think this 4th one isn't bad, but my power forward, I got Antoine Jameson as my power forward. Now for center, I think you may flip your lid. You know, Tyler Hansbrough, man, because he doesn't pass the eyeball test. Brother was 4-time. He was All-American all 4 years.
Yep.
He won the championship.
Mm-hmm.
My spreadsheet, I can't move. Oh, come on. You got to move out here. Get it out here where I can see. I'm sorry, man. He was a 4-time All-American. He won the championship. He was National Player of the Year once.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, because you look at him, you're like, but bam. And I'm a fair man.
Okay.
I'm a fair man.
Okay.
You know, is there a lot of players on here better than him, ability-wise and all of that? Absolutely. But I'm a fair man. The man, from the day, the man was hooping from the moment he stepped on campus, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, 4-time All-American and 4-time All-ACC, National Player of the Year with a championship. Then for my reserve, I got Sam Perkins for my reserve. Now, these are the following people I had for consideration. I'm just mentioning them at random. I had the late, great Eric Montross. You know, he 2-time All-American, 1-time national champion. I considered Michael Corrin. I considered Charlie Scott. I considered Vince Carter. But you remember he and Jameson were there at the same time. Jameson was the better player in college by a fairly significant margin.
Yeah, he was.
Despite his talents. Now, obviously, Vince's game is much better suited for the pros than college.
Yeah.
Then I got some names. I have Rasheed Wallace, Jerry Stackhouse. They both were great, but they both stayed 2 years apiece, and they didn't really do much as far as team success. I had Kenny Smith, who was 3-time All-SEC, 1-time All-American. Folks listening, the Jet was once a big-time baller.
He was.
And I considered Brad Daugherty, 1-time All-American, but I just felt at that center spot, you know, on campus, Hansbrough just did much more. And then my final 2 considerations, 2 of my favorite players from the pro ranks, you know, Bob McAdoo and old Bobby Jones, my favorite defender of all time. Right. You know, but I gave them consideration, but I just thought that the others had, especially devoid of a championship, the others had better bodies of work.
Okay. This is what I have, okay? Point guard, Phil Ford.
Okay.
Shooting guard, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Small forward, James Worthy.
Okay.
Center, Tyler Hansbrough.
Okay.
But for power forward, my starting power forward, I got Sam Perkins.
Man, I can't argue with that either. Who you got for your reserve then?
Bob McAdoo is my reserve.
You ain't gonna get no qualm out of me with no Bob McAdoo coming off the bench on any team. I got the Mr. Fill It Up himself, you're not going to get an argument with me over Bob McAdoo at no point in time.
Okay. So we pretty much got a lot of it the same way. A lot of it we agree on.
Did you think I was going to give you stuff about Hansborough?
I really did. I was like, I was prepared. I was prepared to like, okay, Tyler. When you say Tyler Hansborough, like what? Like, I mean, and I was like, you think about it, 20 points, 9 rebounds a game. No, I'll take that back. Yeah, 20 points, 9 rebounds per game. 2009 national championship. 2009 national player of the year. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Of course, the head coach is Dean Smith, obviously.
No ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Obviously, the players that I considered Charlie Scott, Kenny Smith, Brad Daugherty, Ed Cota, Rasheed Wallace, Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson. I considered all of them. Okay, but that's the starters I have. Phil Ford, Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Sam Perkins, Tyler Hansborough, and Bob McAdoo coming off the bench.
Now, just a little truth. I didn't want Hansborough on there, man.
I was trying to figure out a way not to. I'm be honest.
Look at it, man.
But if you look at his body of work, and he's also North Carolina's all-time leading scorer too. You have
to be fair, man. You got to be fair. I mean, it's like, because if you're not with one Player of the Year award, one national title, 4-time All-ACC, and 4-time All-American, if you're not going to put him on there, then we can end the episode right now. Right. If you're not going to put him on there, because that's not fair.
No, it's not. I mean, like, because I was trying to figure out a way. Okay,
me too.
Tyler Hansborough did all this, and I'm like, wow. And it's one of the things that's so cool about stuff like this is that you think you know something until you start looking at the body of work, and you're like, wow, I didn't know it was like this. I really didn't. And
to be completely frank with you, despite the embarrassment of riches, right? If we're going to select strictly off of resume and body of work, he comes out ahead of everyone else on this list and everyone that was considered. Jordan, Worthy, Perkins, all of them included. He comes out in front of every last one of them. He would be first if you base it on the body of work while on campus in Chapel Hill. He would be first.
If you look at the totality of his resume and everything that he did, he would come out ahead of all of these guys. And that's crazy.
You cannot deny him.
You can't deny him, man.
Like, you could tell even in college, he's just a college player. But, the man hooping, man. You can't take that away from him. The man, the brother was hooping, man.
Sure. So that's are we cool with this lineup? Phil Ford at point, Michael Jordan at the 2, James Worthy at small forward, Sam Perkins at power forward, Tyler Hansborough at center, and Bob McAdoo coming off the bench.
No argument for me for that.
Got it. Okay, it's my turn at number 5, which is the Indiana Hoosiers, the 5th seed, 5 national championships, 1976 perfect season, 41 tournament appearances. Okay, this year marks the 50th anniversary of that 1976 perfect season for Indiana. The only team, no team has ever gone undefeated. We've had a few that came close, especially that 91 UNLV team, which came damn close.
Yes.
Which I've never forgiven Duke for beating them, but that's another story. But this is my starters and my reserve and my head coach for Indiana, the dudes in the Crimson and Cream from Bloomington, Indiana. Point guard, Isaiah Thomas. Shooting guard, Steve Alford. Small forward, Calbert Chaney. Power forward, Scott May. And my center, we got to go back some years, Walt Bellamy. And my reserve is Quinn Buckner. And, of course, head coach, the general himself, Robert Montgomery Knight.
Not bad. Run through it again right quick, because I think we matched a lot.
Okay. Point guard, I think we match it out with Isaiah Thomas.
Absolutely.
Shooting guard, same thing. I think we both got Steve Alford.
Yes, we do.
I think we may be different on Calbert Chaney.
We are.
Scott May, I think, is a no-brainer for power forward.
He's a no-brainer. Yes.
And I have Walt Bellamy at center.
Okay. So what I had Isaiah Thomas at the 1, Steve Alford at the 2. I got Scott May at the 3. Then I had at the 4, I had Kent Benson.
Okay.
At the 4. And then I kind of got one of the old timers at center. I got Don Schlump.
Okay.
Because he was 3-time All-American, won a title. He was 3-time All-Big Ten and all of that. But I can be talked off of that because I strongly considered Walt Bellamy, but he only played 1 season.
Yeah.
So that's how come I kind of backed off of Walt Bellamy a little bit. He only played now what a darn season it was, 20.6. Or did he played 2 years, I think.
He played 2 years because he was 2-time All-Big Ten.
Yeah, he for his career, he was 20.6, 15.5 boards. Then his best season was 21.8, 17.8 boards, and all of that. So you know what? I had Calbert Chaney as a reserve.
Okay.
You know, I had him as a reserve. But we can because we pretty much got all the players. How about Schlunt is out, Bellamy is in.
Okay.
And do you want Chaney? It may be immaterial, but I'll propose it to you anyway.
Okay.
We basically have May and Chaney flip-flop because the thing with May that had me was he was player of the year. Calbert Chaney was too.
Yeah.
But May got the championship. So that's how come I had him starting and Chaney coming off the bench.
Okay. So who did you have at small forward? You had Scott May at small forward?
Yes. I had Scott May at small forward as the starter. And then, Calbert Chaney was a 2/3. I had him coming off the bench.
Okay. So Isaiah Thomas, Steve Alford, Scott May at small forward, Kent Benson at power forward.
Who did you have? Who was your power forward? Now that I think about it.
I said I had Scott May at power forward.
And you had Quinn Buckner.
I had Quinn Buckner as a reserve.
Okay, why Quinn? Because I looked at, I thought Quinn was a baller in college. Then because you remember, I used to hate him in the pro when he broadcast because he talked like he knew everything. I'm like, man, when you were with the Celtics, man, you was over there beside come on, man, the dude I hate him, the towel waving dude,
ML Carr.
Yeah, him. You were beside him waving the towel, man. Come on now,
Okay. Now Quinn Buckner, 5 points per game, 10 points a game, 5 assists per game. He was a key cog in that Indiana perfect season, but he wasn't Kent Benson. So let's do this. I'll make Kent Benson a reserve. Keep the team that Thomas, Alford, Chaney, May, unless you want to put Kent Benson as a power forward.
So okay, so what 6 do you ultimately propose to settle on? Which 6 do you have?
For consideration, I had Kent Benson. I also had Alan Henderson, and I had Damon Bailey.
Alan Henderson and Damon Bailey. Okay.
One thing about Indiana is that they never really had guys that would just grab you as far as like being really good, other than Alford and Thomas and Scott May. Everybody else was like, Okay, let's do this way. We do agree with Walt Bellamy at center, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I propose we put Kent Benson at power forward, move Calbert Chaney as a reserve.
And then Scott May is out?
And then Scott May at small forward. Kind of like what you had.
So who's out? Okay, my 6, under what you propose, because I just want to make sure I got this. Under what I would propose, my six, regardless of start of bench.
Right.
Thomas, Alford, Chaney, Benson, May, Bellamy. Those are the six under what you proposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yours don't differ at all. Your actual six.
My actual six, I had Quinn Buckner as a reserve, and I had Calbert Chaney as small forward.
Okay. All right. Do you still want Buckner?
Not really, no.
Okay. All right.
I mean, like, because what Kent Benson did, he was the anchor of that 76 team along with Scott May.
So now, who's going to be the reserve under these circumstances now?
I would move May. I was thinking about moving Scott May to small forward, replacing him with Kent Benson, and moving Calbert Chaney to a reserve.
Okay, that's exactly what I have now. Then, okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what we got. We settled on that. Okay.
Okay. So here, Scott. Okay. And I'm just writing it down so we can.
Yeah,
get
absolutely. I got all this on the spreadsheet, so that's why I'm just moving it around and all of that.
Okay.
And without question, Robert Montgomery Knight is the coach. That's
of course. So our team for Indiana would be Isaiah Thomas at point guard, Steve Alford as shooting guard, Scott May as small forward, Kent Benson at power forward, Walt Bellamy at center, and Calbert Chaney as a reserve.
Yes.
Okay. And like I said, my considerations was Kent Benson, Alan Henderson, and Damon Bailey. Okay. So moving on to the 6th seed was the Kansas Jayhawks. 6 national championships. Of the 6, 2 of them occurred prior to 1939, which was basically the Helms Foundation national champion. They won 2 over, and then they had 4 titles since 1939. 28 consecutive tournament appearances. And Chuck, since this is your go, who is your starters, the reserve, and the coach for Kansas? And before you get into that, this one here to me was sort of hard, especially for a couple of positions and the coach. So who did you have for the Kansas Jayhawks?
Okay, let's start off with the coach then. For me, I thought the coach would be hard, but then when I really sat down and thought about it, it wasn't. Coach Bill Self.
Okay.
For me, because Larry Brown won the title, but as you know, he was kind of like Odysseus. He stayed jumping around every place, and all of that. Roy Williams has always been like how we had the episode of the most overrated NFL coaches.
Yeah.
He's perhaps the most overrated college basketball coach. It's between he and now it's between he and John Thompson for the most overrated basketball coach. Because even like at Kansas and then at Carolina, he just constantly left stuff on the table, left food on the table all the time.
I agree with that.
So I settled on Bill Self for those reasons.
Okay.
Now to the players, I had 2 no-brainers, and then it gets dicey after that.
Okay.
Center, Wilt the Stilt. I mean,
of course.
No doubt about it. Okay. Power forward, just as no-brainer, Danny Manning.
Okay.
Small forward, I had Paul Pierce.
Okay.
No, I actually have Paul Pierce. He's a forward, but I moved him down to the second guard spot, actually.
Okay.
Then at small forward, and crazy, you can call this man a small forward, but he had 3-point capabilities and all of that. I had Rafe LaFrance.
Okay.
Small forward. And then ultimately, for my point guard, I settled on JoJo White. The great from the Boston Celtics. Now, for my reserves, it came down to 2 people, and I haven't decided, so I'm using your help for this one. It came down to Nick Collison. They both were on the same team that around the same time, Nick Collison and Drew Gooden. That's like Nick Collison averaged 14 a game for his career, 14-8. His best season was 18.5 and 11. He's a one-time All-American, 3-time All Big 12. Drew Gooden, 15.6, 9.2 boards a game for his career. Best season, 19.8, 11.4, 2-time All Big 10. And the only other people I had for consideration was Sharon Collins, Jock Vaughn, and you know how I feel about Jock Vaughn already. I don't like Jock Vaughn. Cause like a lot of them years, man, they were just putting anybody on the All-American team back then. You remember Adonis Jordan? He was, and Rex Walton. They weren't good either. And they were like, come on. And then Ben McLemore, but he had only one campaign in Lawrence. So I got hung up trying to figure out that reserve between Collison and Gooden. What do you have? And then we can kind of flesh it out after.
Okay. That. For the University of Kansas, this is what I got. Point guard, Jock Vaughn. Shooting guard, JoJo White. Small forward, Paul Pierce. Power forward, Danny Manning. Center, Will Chamberlain. My reserve, I went way back in the day. Clyde Lavellet. 24.5 points per game. 1952 national champ.
Old.
So that's what I have for my reserve. I had Clyde Lavellet. Now, Jock Vaughn, I could be talked out of. Not because of what you said, because I was like, so what do I do? I can't see JoJo White as a point guard. I just can't. Even though he played a lot of point when he was in Boston and he played some point when he was at Kansas, but he's mostly known as a shooter. So JoJo White at Kansas, National Player of the Year. I mean, I'm sorry, not National Player of the Year. He was a 2-time All-American in the mid-60s, 15 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. I have JoJo White as a shooting guard. Now, point guard, I could be talked out of Jock Vaughn. Okay. But the thing is that when we talk in Kansas basketball, there's not a lot of point guards there. Ben McLemore, okay, yeah. Now I would be willing to go move JoJo White to point, right? I would be willing to do that. And who did you have as a shooting guard?
I had Paul Pierce at my shooting guard. Now, as far as JoJo White is concerned, I took into consideration that both Paul Pierce and especially Danny Manning had ball handling and playmaking capabilities.
Yeah, they did.
But this is fluid. This is fluid for me because, Kansas has never been one of my favorite programs. No way. This is fluid for me. But the Clyde Lavellet thing for the reserve, 24 game and the national title, sold. He's the reserve.
Okay.
Sold.
And I do have Bill Self as the head coach.
Yeah, Bill Self.
Even though I thought about Fog Allen, but he coached going all the way back. I mean, he played for Naismith, for God's sakes. So he won 3-time national.
If he played for Naismith, man,
the court's named after him. Okay, 3-time national Fog Allen, 3-time national champ. Both the two of those national championships was the Helms Foundation national champion, and won it again in 1952.
Okay.
But I did go with Bill Self, because, but so now for guys I had under consideration, I had Ben McLemore. I also had Mario Chalmers as a point guard. Okay. I also had Adonis Jordan. I had Drew Gooden, and I had Scott Pollard.
Scott Pollard was solid. Yeah. But for me, it ain't quite as big as the Hansborough argument.
Right.
Rafe LaFrentz was All-American twice.
But where would you put him, though?
He could shoot threes, so he was 37.5 from 3, and then in his best year, he was 19.8 points, 11.4 boards. He had 1 assist, 1.5 blocks, nearly 1 steal a game, and shot 47 from 3.
Okay.
Like in his best year. But this isn't etched in stone either. If you don't want him, I don't have a problem with that. If you don't
Well,
want
this
him,
is
it's
what
fine.
this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm
You know?
thinking. Okay, I'll move up, move JoJo White to point, move Paul Pierce to a 2, move Manning to 3, Rafe LaFrance at the 4, Chamberlain at 5, and Lavelle as the reserve.
Works. Good. Works for me.
Yeah,
Perfect.
because like I said, I could be taught. Like I said in the beginning, I could be talked out of Jacques Vaughn.
Yeah.
Of all
games.
these people that I put down, Jacques Vaughn was the one that I had the most questions. In fact, I had a question mark in front of Jacques Vaughn.
Now, and I'm probably being hyperbolic slightly. I know Jacques Vaughn was a pro player.
Mm-hmm.
But when we used to hoop at the Armory in the late 90s with the LSU players and a lot of
Right.
a lot of people like Roger Anderson who played for Texas, they used to
Yeah.
come back home and hoop.
Right.
I
Right.
think Jacques Vaughn would have a hard time staying on the floor.
Right.
I just feel that way. Even though he was an NBA player,
Yeah.
and I don't think that even though the players were better then to me, I don't think that the differences between pro players and other players are as pronounced as they are now, because these guys can't hoop now, man. But because I think Jacques Vaughn could walk into the Armory and not get picked up first. He'd have to have up. Honestly.
Right. Okay.
He'd have to have up. Or if you and I coming up there, be like, we need 3. You want to run with us? No. we get somebody else. No.
So this is what we have. Okay. For the University of Kansas, for the Kansas Jayhawks, we have point guard JoJo White, shooting guard Paul Pierce, small forward Danny Manning, power forward Rafe LaFrance, center Wilt Chamberlain, and the reserve is Clyde Lavelle.
Works for me.
All right. And Bill Self is the head coach.
Bill Self is the head coach. Yes.
All right. So moving on now to the 7th seed. Oh, God. And this is the 7th seed Duke Blue Devils. 5 national championships, 11 title game appearances, 18 Final Fours, 11 National Players of the Year. And let's just address the elephant in the room right now. Head coach Mike Krzyzewski. That's okay. That
no brainer.
That's the ultimate no brainer. Now here's where it gets interesting: is the team. It is my turn to go. So this is what I have as my starters, my 6 players for Duke. Point guard Bobby Hurley, shooting guard JJ Redick, small forward Grant Hill, power forward Danny Ferry, and center Christian Laettner, and Johnny Dawkins as my reserve.
Okay.
And Mike Krzyzewski's my head coach.
Okay. You and I got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do.
I figured that.
If we have a lot of work to do right now. Okay. We're going to start off with the 2 no-brainers. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Really, it's 3. My third no-brainer is the reserve, but whatever. My 2 no-brainers, Christian Laettner, Grant Hill. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. And then based on strictly college proficiency, let's look over this entire thing. As far as a college player, Christian Laettner is probably the best of the entire lot. Probably.
Yeah.
And to give him credit, right quick, not to stretch this out, a lot of people act like he was just some type of bum in the pros or something. He didn't reach the iconic heights that he did in college in the league, but he was very good. He was a consistent 16, 15 to 17 and about 8 per year, like clockwork, until injuries and age beset him, and he made.
I mean, like Christian Laettner is that classic case of he was the victim of his own collegiate success.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody, what he did in college, was like monumental, and everybody thought that he was going to be the next big thing when he came out of Duke. And when he went, first of all, he went to an expansion team. He went to Minnesota. Okay.
Correct.
And they weren't winning. I mean, when you're playing alongside Eldon Campbell and when you're playing alongside, was it Tony Campbell? I'm sorry, Tony Campbell. Playing alongside Tony Campbell and that guy in that group, you're not going to win a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
So Christian Laettner's career, he was basically the poster child of being the victim of your own collegiate success, like a big time Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who goes to the pros, had a decent career, but people think his career is a bust because he didn't do this. He didn't, do everything that he did in college and the pros. But he was still a solid player. You know what I mean? He was a very solid NBA player, and unfortunately he gets being cast aside as like a bum, like he's somebody like Michael Olowokandi or somebody like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he wasn't. He was a very solid player for a very long time in the pros.
He was a very good player, and I just think his problem was he was kind of a tweener.
Yeah.
In some effects, and I don't think that the pro game was ready to embrace the fullness of his game because
right.
He was too small to play five.
He was.
He was too small to play five. He could play four, but 4 is usually that post player / hard hat guy.
Right.
In those days.
Yes. Now he would be perfect. He would be a perfect 4 today.
And his face-up game, face-up from 18 to 20 and can make plays, pass, shoot, dribble, and all that. They couldn't. Whereas, just to the point that you made, man, if the dude, he was probably about 25 or 30 years too early.
Yeah.
And probably the same could be said for Danny Manning as well. They were probably about 25 to 30 years too soon. Whereas, if Laettner had came at any time within the past 10 years,
mm-hmm.
he would be top 10, top 5 player easy if he played now. You
mm-hmm.
know what I mean? But he just came along at the wrong time. But anyway, Grant Hill, Christian Laettner, my no-brainers. Power forward. I got Elton Brand, man, at power forward.
I really consider Elton Brand. I put Elton Brand for a second and then crossed him out and put Danny Ferry.
Yep, I
could be talked out of Danny Ferry. I definitely could be. But I will say this. There's nowhere in the world. I need to know who you have at point because I am not taking Bobby Hurley off.
I'm about to tell you who we got at point. Elton Brand, he made an NCAA title game, that 99 game against UConn they lost, and he was player of the year and number 1 pick in the draft, which doesn't have any bearing on this, but he was damn good. Shooting guard, I got Johnny Dawkins as my shooting guard because he's the one that put Duke on the map. He put him on the map. You remember? All of the start of the Final Fours and all of that didn't start until,
Johnny Dawkins got there.
Johnny Dawkins,
Mark Allery, Tommy Amaker, Jay Billis,
all of those guys in 86. And then that kind of established them and Coach K as one of the premier coaches, but it also established Duke as a premier program, and then they just springboarded from that point.
Right.
Because probably out of all these players, he's probably the most important from a historical standpoint.
Yes.
So he's my starting 2 guard. My starting 1 guard, man, Jay Williams, man. Jay Williams.
Okay. You're going to pick Jay Williams over Bobby Hurley. Really?
Oh,
really?
Every day.
Really?
Bobby
Hurley, 12 points a game, 8 assists, 1993 All-American, 2-time national champ, back-to-back national champs.
Okay. Now,
they went back-to-back national champs.
Now,
Jay Williams, what did he win?
Okay.
I mean, he was a damn good point guard. No lie. Again, take everything away to what did not happen in the pros. Okay. And awesome analyst, awesome player when he was at Duke. I don't think I can't take Bobby Hurley off in place of Jay Williams. I can't.
Okay. Now just listen to me. Now I see flames from your nostrils. But as far as on leg on and say boy, listen to me when I talk to you, son. But
I gotta hear that. I'm looking dead at you, bro. I need to hear this.
Okay. You gotta think about Bobby Hurley had Christian Laettner and Grant Hill. Because you remember that first year in 1990 when they played
UNLV.
They got ran because they didn't have Grant Hill the first year.
No.
They got ran because you remember they had this guy
was it Thomas Jones? Was it Thomas Hill?
He was a bum too. But they had all the Abdul-Jabbar out there.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Boom. You know what I mean? But they got ran, and you remember Kenny Anderson used to torch Bobby Hurley, but they got ran in that UNLV game. Now the difference in that following season was when UNLV didn't quite have that same depth that they had the previous year, but also the following year they had Grant Hill that year. So when they run that trap and all that, they had Grant. Grant was cooking Stacey Hoffman, man. So they had somebody that could do something with that. Now let's fast forward to 1992. Everybody remembers the buzzer beater in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Who got took right before that, which necessitated the miracle shot? Who got took right before that?
Okay, Bobby Hurley
took him.
Yeah.
He took him and went too early. It took Mike. It took Hurley and banked it in and went too early, which necessitated the full length pass by Grant Hill to the free throw line on the opposite end and Laettner shot at buzzer. Now you also asked, what did Jay Williams win? He won the championship in 2002, and he was player of the year. Because you remember they beat Maryland. They shouldn't have won. Because that's what Maryland.
No, they shouldn't have won it. Maryland should have won it. Maryland, that's the one program that's just like they will snatch defeat out of the hands of victory.
They shouldn't have won. You know what I mean? Because that's what they had. Juan Dixon.
Blake,
had,
Steve Blake,
Baxter.
Yeah.
They were just loaded, and they found a way to lose the Jay. Really, all they had was Jay Williams and Shane Battier. That's all they had. You know what I mean? They found a way to lose. So I got Jay Williams. That's my point. Now I think, like I told you before,
what's your feeling on JJ Redick?
He was good, but he didn't win.
He's Duke's all-time leading scorer.
Huh?
He's Duke's all-time leading scorer.
Great. Great. I mean,
he didn't. I mean, you're gonna. Okay, you got. I got. Okay, Johnny. I can see Johnny Dawkins as the shooting guard. As a starting shooting guard. Okay, but at least you got to at least have JJ Redick somewhere on the team, unless. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. Okay, I'll give you Jay Williams. I'll give you that. Okay, because you made some good points. Bobby Hurley, to be completely honest, was a defensive liability.
But he was a great player. I'm not.
I'm not knocking Bobby Hurley at all.
You know what I mean?
But he was a defensive liability, and you saw that constantly throughout his career at Duke because he was so small. Okay, but Duke has never really had no really big guards anyway. Everybody from Hurley to Kyrie, to whoever. Jay Williams wasn't a big that himself, but he was also he was a very good playmaker. And Bobby Hurley benefited with playing with Hill and Laettner. So, I could give you Jay Williams. Okay. You got Johnny Dawkins as shooting guard. Again, I could take that. So, and that's the case, who's your reserve?
My reserve. It came down to four people. I'm gonna pick the three people. I'm gonna go with the three people I did not pick. Okay. First was JJ Redick. He had a very strong case, but I just felt, now before I get to this guy, I told you that this reserve was my third no-brainer, in my opinion. Right?
Okay.
JJ Redick was first. Then one of my all-time favorite ballers from a previous Coach K era, Mike Jaminski.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, two-time All-American, averaged 19 and 10 for his career. And, he was a very good player for many years with the New Jersey Nets and the pros. He was a very good player. I didn't settle on him. I strongly consider Danny Ferry because he was good. Number 1 overall pick. He averaged 15 and 7 for his career. Best year was 22.6 and 7.4 rebounds, nearly 5 assists, over 1.5 steals, shot 42 from 3, and he was the National Player of the Year. But my fourth player, who I considered and who I ultimately selected, and to me is a no-brainer. Excuse me, Shane Battier. You know,
Okay.
6'8", 2-time All-American. Averaged 13.6 a game, six boards, 1.6 assists, nearly 2 blocks, nearly 2 steals a game. Shot 50% from the field, 41 from 3, nearly 42 from 3 for his career. Best season, 20 a game, 7 boards, 1.8 assists, nearly 2.5 blocks, 2.1 steals, shot 41 from 3, 80 from the line, won the title, and was Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, to me, Battier, it was kind of like, and you got to consider, especially within college, you need scoring, he can do it.
Right.
You need ball handling, he can do it. And he is by far, and it is nothing even close, the best defender on this list, starters included. He is by far the best defender.
Yes, he is.
On this list.
Yes, he is. So, I mean,
but I'm willing to concede because Danny Ferry was a baller too. So and you've already conceded the point to me. So I can concede that.
I mean, Elton Brand, as much as I liked Elton Brand, you know, Danny Ferry's body of work was just better.
Okay.
As a collegiate career. Okay. This is what I have. Okay.
Okay.
I conceded you Jay Williams to be point. Okay.
Okay.
So Jay Williams is at point guard. Johnny Dawkins is at the 2. Grant Hill 3. Ferry at 4. Laettner at 5. And I'll give you Shane Battier as a reserve because you made a good point about Shane Battier. I knew about Shane Battier, and he was one of the people that I strongly considered, but I didn't know where exactly to put him because you could put him as a small forward, but is he better than Grant Hill? No. Is he better than Danny Ferry at power forward?
No, he isn't.
No. So where would I put him? So I just left him off,
Okay.
But I could just. And I put Johnny Dawkins as a reserve for the point that you made because he was basically, you have to put Johnny Dawkins somewhere because he as important as he is for this program. So this is what I think that we should do. Okay. Point guard, Jay Williams. Shooting guard, Johnny Dawkins. Small forward, Grant Hill. Power forward, Danny Ferry. Christian Laettner at center. And Shane Battier as a reserve.
Deal.
Okay. These are the people that I considered. Okay.
Okay.
Carlos Boozer. I did consider Elton Brand. I considered Mark Allery. Shane Battier. I had Mike Jaminski. I had Gene Banks.
Yeah, Gene Banks was good.
And
he was very good. He was very
Trajan
good.
Langdon.
I thought about him. but I dismissed him quick.
And Chris Duhon.
I ain't like Chris Duhon, before I will settle on that. And before we move on, what I didn't like about Hurley, he and Wojo, they both started slapping the floor thing, then get crossed up. Oops, man, dude, you can't slap.
You can't do that and then get crossed up on the very next possession.
I mean, Randolph Childress used to. Randolph Childress used to just kill.
And Randolph Childress was not like all that either. You know what I mean? Let's just be real. Randolph Childress was good, but he wasn't all that.
Yeah. But I can give you that. So Laettner at center, Ferry at power forward. Because you remember both he and Brand were number 1 overall in NBA selections.
Yep.
But Grant Hill at small forward, Johnny Dawkins at guard, Jay Williams at point, and Battier as the reserve. Deal. And Coach K is the coach, obviously.
Of course, obviously.
Not an issue with that.
Yeah. Okay, number 8, the 8 seed. Michigan State, and Chuck, you're up. And for the 8 seed, Michigan State Spartans, 2-time national champ, 17 Big Ten regular season titles, 6 Big Ten tournament titles, 1979 final versus Indiana State, the most watched college basketball game in television history.
So they two-time national champion. Shout out to Diamond Dallas Page, baby, DDP.
Yep.
You know,
yes, sir.
But this one was kind of, in some respects, easy, and then in other respects, harder. Okay, this is what this is what I'm going to settle on, right? Okay. I got, obviously, point guard, who happens to be the point god.
Yep.
Irvin Magic Johnson.
From Lansing, Michigan.
Okay, man. At my shooting guard, I had old Steve Smith. I got Smitty. 18 in that career, 18 and a half a game, 6 boards, nearly 4 assists. Best season, averaged 25, 6 boards, 3.6 assists, shot 40 from 3. He one-time All-American, 2-time All Big Ten. I got Smitty at the 2. At 3, I think this is my other no-brainer, Greg Kelser. No-brainer.
Okay.
At my 4, I have Draymond Green. I can be talked out of that. No.
Okay.
I got Draymond, one-time All-American. He's Big Ten Player of the Year. I think 3 times Big Ten. Then my last one, I strongly considered the following 2 people. Mateen Cleaves, who was 3-time All-American, 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year. But he's Cleaves. So I went back to the pre-Izzo era. My reserve, probably a name you may have forgotten about, and many of our listeners, Sean Resper.
Okay.
Interesting. That's my reserve. Now, you remember the conversation that you and I had briefly on Friday. We didn't divulge any picks nor anything like that, but we were just talking about the difficulty that we had. Now, this is one of the difficulties because, unless you're going to show me something different, Michigan State has always been guard and wing dominant. Oh, man, I forgot. My last spot, the 3rd spot, it came down to these 2 people. I'm sorry. Sean Respert is my reserve. Sorry, people. I got to hit myself. In my last guard spot, because I ran Magic, I basically got 1, 2, 3 guards in the starting lineup and 2 forwards. And then Sean Respert is the backup reserve. Okay. And it came down to 2 people, Mateen Cleaves and Scott Skiles. That's what it came down to.
All right.
Now, based on team success, you would obviously pick Cleaves, right?
Yeah.
He's 3-time All-American, 2. Skiles is 1. But looking at the numbers, and I saw both of them play with my own eyes. The disparity in talent was just colossal.
Yeah. Okay.
The disparity in talent between the 2 is colossal in favor of Scott Skiles.
Right. Absolutely.
So
I believe that.
I picked Skiles. So you gotta think, okay, Cleaves averaged 12 and 6.6 assists for his career. Best season was 16.10 and 7.2 assists a game. Where Scott Skiles, he averaged 18, 3 boards, 5.5 assists a game. Best season, he averaged 27.4 and 6.5 assists a game. Then you also have to factor in, a lot of times, you got to look at the nuance, right? Because, like a lot of times, and I know, we had players like in the 80s and the early 90s that were not All-Americans, not because they were not good enough, but there's only 2 teams. They only picked 10 players. But it was just so many good players.
Yes.
That's why they didn't make All-American. Then you get the Cleaves. By the time Cleaves, this is when you start having like people around that time, people were going to the league straight out of high school or playing 1 year max. They've since abolished the straight out of high school rule, but that's when people are really going straight out of high school. And he made it 3 times. And a lot of that, in my opinion, was attributed to the fact that they didn't have any ballers, as evidenced by him winning 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year. You just imagine if you just go back a decade, like when they had the Fab Five, Indiana had Calvin Chaney, Ohio State had Jimmy Jackson. Would he win a Player of the Year under those circumstances?
No.
You know what I mean? So, like, a lot of times it's more nuanced.
Right, it is. You're right. For Michigan State, for me, okay, obvious point guard Magic Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Shooting guard Steve Smith. My small forward, I have Morris Peterson, part of the Flintstones, the 2001 national championship team.
Okay.
Power forward, I have Greg Kelser.
Okay.
And at center, I have Draymond Green. I put Draymond at center. Okay. My reserve is Sean Respert. Okay. Now, listening to what you said, I was thinking about this. Take out Morris Peterson and have a 3-guard starting lineup with Sean Respert as the guard, as the third starter. Okay. So I would say this: Magic, Steve Smith, Sean Respert, Greg Kelser, Draymond Green, and have Scott Skiles coming off the bench.
That could work for me, but what could also work for me as well is Sean Respert in the starting lineup. What did you have initially? I'm sorry. What did you have initially before your proposal?
Okay, I had Magic at point, Steve Smith at the 2, Morris Peterson at 3, Greg Kelser at 4, Draymond Green at 5.
And who is your reserve?
Sean Respert.
Man, I can go along with that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because Mo Pete did win a title, and as great as Scott Skiles was, man, I can concede that one. I can take out Skiles and put on Mo Pete, and then Respert is still the reserve. I can concede to that, because we got, you already got Magic at the point, so you don't really need another
true point guard. Right.
So I can concede. We can do it your way, brother, to be honest with you.
Okay, so these are the players that I had under consideration. And you take this starting 5, and this would be a pretty good starting 5 within its own right. Okay. I got Mateen Cleaves, Jay Vincent, Scott Skiles, Eric Snow, and Charlie Bell.
You know how I feel about Eric Snow.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about Eric Snow, man. He the only dude I ever seen pull up from baseline from 15 and miss the whole goal. How do you play every day and miss the whole goal, man? But I do that now at age 50, nearly 51, but not back then. But anyway, my consideration for players were I had Cleaves, Jason Richardson,
that's another
Winston.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Scott Skiles, but I'm
surprised you didn't have Jay Vincent.
I'm
surprised you didn't have Jay Vincent.
No, I didn't. I considered him, but I dismissed him relatively quickly. I dismissed him relatively quickly because I know, like, I spent a lot of time doing this week. So, like, towards the end of it, because I knew I had to finish it on Friday because I had
so many things going on,
and I had a long day today. So I had to bang it out on Friday. So really, once I got to the point toward the end where it was players I wasn't considering, I didn't even bother to look at it. If I knew I wasn't going to pick them, because I had to shorten it up. But another point. I have Tom Izzo as the coach. Did you give Judd Heathcote any consideration? If
I
so,
did for like a half a second, and then I thought, Tom Izzo is the most successful coach in the history of, even though he did win one national championship, and Judd Heathcote had won a national championship, but Tom Izzo had been one of the top coaches longer than Heathcote.
I followed a simple. I followed a similar methodology.
So Tom Izzo is the coach, won national championship, and I heard something today during the selection show. I may be getting this wrong, but it's something like 27 consecutive appearances in the NCAA tournament. leading Michigan State for 27 consecutive seasons into the tournament. So
Yes.
that's what you call longevity. That's called,
Mm-hmm.
doing it well for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now it is my turn, and we're going up to number 9, and we got the Syracuse Orange. And I know with this right here, this may cause some controversy between the two of us. I just feel it because of one person.
Is Billy Owens in there?
No, Billy Owens is not.
As long as he ain't Billy Owens, man, you know how much
I had him under consideration, but he's not on the team. Okay.
They blew up Run TMC for that scrub, man. But proceed, sir.
Okay. 2003 national champs, 2-time national runner-up, 6 Final Four appearances. Okay. Get the elephant out of the room. Head coach Jim Boeheim. Has to be.
No.
And I remember what you told me, and I'll never forget this, what you told me about Boeheim. You told me once that Boeheim looked like somebody, instead of coaching basketball, looked like somebody who should be doing your taxes.
Correct.
I never forgot that. I thought that was so funny, but they're also so very true. Now, my starters, my players for this squad, okay. Starting point guard, Sherman Douglas. Shooting guard, Dave Bing. Small forward, Carmelo Anthony. Power forward, Derek Coleman. And Ronnie Cycli at center. And my reserve, Dwayne Pearl Washington.
We're very close.
Oh, really? I really thought you were going to give me some slack on having Pearl Washington as a reserve.
No, we're very, very close.
Okay.
Very close. Okay. This is what I had. I got Dwayne Pearl Washington as my point guard.
Okay.
Shooting guard, I have Dave Bing. Small forward, I had Carmelo Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Power forward, I had John Wallace.
Okay.
And then I just played another forward with Derek Coleman. And then this is a blast from the past, and we might have to discuss on this because this guy here, I'm not eager to move off of this. Because what I just talked about in terms of a lot of times All-American bids is a lot more nuanced than we realize or want to admit a lot of times. This certainly was the case in the mid-90s. So this guy here, my reserve is the late great baller himself, Lawrence Moulton. That's my heat, because at one point, I don't know if he still is or not. At one point, he was considered the Big East all-time leading scorer at one point.
Right.
And Moulton was a baller. You remember he died like within the last year.
Yeah.
He's from somewhere out here. But the only other two people I had strongly under consideration were Sherman Douglas and Ronnie Cycli. Once again, similar to Anthony Davis, even though Carmelo Anthony only played 1 year.
Yeah.
He
did something that nobody else did. He won a championship.
He won the chip. So he has to be on there.
Right.
Derek Coleman, despite that missed free throw that would have put the game out of reach.
Reaching 87, right.
Leading up to the Keith Smart game-winning shot. But that was just his freshman year.
Yeah, that was.
That would have happened. I consider him. I strongly consider Ronnie Cycli, but it's just not enough spots because you can't vote off Dave Bing.
No, you can't.
And I had Dwayne Pearl Washington for similar reasons to Johnny Dawkins.
To Johnny Dawkins, right? Of course.
Not only did Dwayne Pearl Washington brought Syracuse to prominence, but he, along with guys like Ewing, Mullen, and all of them, those group of guys, they pushed the Big East to the forefront of college basketball. So I think his legacy, I had him there. But now I got John Wallace because he was three-time all Big East, but so were Douglas and Cycli. And he made the 96 title game. But I am willing to concede Wallace in favor of Cycli. I am willing to concede that.
Okay. And I am willing to concede Sherman Douglas for Pearl Washington because I couldn't choose between Pearl Washington and Sherman Douglas. But I could see myself putting Pearl Washington ahead because he, like you say with Johnny Dawkins, he put Syracuse basketball on the map and helped pretty much set up the Big East to what we knew the Big East were to become, right?
Yes.
So I got Pearl Washington, and then you had Lawrence Moulton as a reserve.
Yes.
Okay. I can do that.
It's a little bias in there because he's one of my favorite ballers of yesteryear, man.
Okay, Lawrence Moulton. I mean, quiet as
you
kept. Lawrence Moulton was a baller. I mean,
Yes.
seriously.
Yes.
Lawrence Moulton could ball.
He
Right.
was a baller, man.
Okay. And then this is what we have. Okay. Pearl Washington, Dave Bing, Carmelo Anthony, Derek Coleman, Ronnie Cycli, and Lawrence Moulton.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we could do that.
Okay.
We could do that. These are the guys that I had under consideration. I did have Lawrence Moulton under consideration.
Okay.
Jerry McNamara,
He was good.
Hakeem Warwick,
He was good too.
and John Wallace.
Okay. Because pretty much this was my easiest one because
Yeah,
in terms
this one was
of
pretty easy.
consideration, I only had those 8 guys.
Yeah.
The 6 we selected and Douglas and Wallace. That's all I had under consideration. That was it for me.
Okay,
pretty
and Boeheim is the coach. So once again, to run through the lineup, Coach Boeheim is the coach. Pearl Washington, Dave Bing, Carmelo Anthony, Derek Coleman, Ronnie Cycli, and Lawrence Moulton.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right, so that takes care of seed number 9. Now we're going to this 10th seed. Their arch rival, Syracuse's arch rival, the Georgetown Hoyas. And it is your turn to go. Georgetown, 1984 national champion, 31 tournament appearances. This one here for me was I had guys in mind. I just had to find a way to make them all fit. Okay. But this was relatively easy. This was relatively easy. But I'm curious to hear what you have.
For me, most of these teams on average took about 40 to 45 minutes to go through.
Really? Okay.
Some took about an hour.
Okay.
Georgetown took me 15 minutes. Similar to you, it wasn't difficult at all to me. Obviously, the coach is John Thompson, without a doubt.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Center, no-brainer, Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
Power forward, no-brainer again, Alonzo Mourning.
Okay.
Point guard or shooting guard, however you want to classify it, no-brainer once again, Allen Iverson.
Okay.
Other guard, he kind of was a point guard that could score a lot too, was Sleepy Floyd.
Yeah.
Then my 3-man to me was yet another no-brainer in Reggie Williams. My starting lineup, Ewing at center, Mourning power forward, Iverson and Sleepy Floyd the guards, and the 3 is Reggie Williams. Now, my reserve came down to 2 people because one of my favorite ballers who had his he was in the John Thompson era, but he had his career derailed once he got to the league due to an incident. And that's Charles Smith. He's one of my favorite.
Okay.
Not Charles Smith from
not the one
Charles
from
Smith
the Knicks.
from Georgetown.
Okay.
So he was a 2-time. He didn't get an All-American bid, but back then, hell, it was hard to make All Big East in those days.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All of the players and the teams they had, it was hard just to make All Big East in those days.
Right.
But he managed to do it 2 times. He averaged best season. He averaged 18.7 points, 5 assists, 3.6 assists. Shot 50 from the field, 40 from 3, and nearly 80 from the line. But ultimately, I bypassed him in favor of my other consideration, who also was instrumental in terms of putting Georgetown on the map as a perennial power year in and year out. I settled on David Wingate as my reserve, because, very good defensive player, 3-time All Big East, averaged 12, 3.6, 2 assists a game, 1.5 steals per game. You remember that pressure defense?
Yeah.
Then his best season, he averaged 15.9, 4 boards, nearly 2 steals. And all of this while playing alongside Reggie Williams and Patrick Ewing and things like that. So, he wasn't getting the lion's share of the looks. So I settled on David Wingate. So your lineup, any dissensions if you have
the only thing that we have different is a reserve. Everything else is the same. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. I got Allen Iverson at point, Sleepy Floyd at the 2, Reggie Williams at 3, Alonzo Mourning at 4, Patrick Ewing at 5.
Okay, so we locked in there. Okay, interested to see who your reserve is then.
Dikembe Mutombo.
I considered him. I strongly considered him, but then I was like, okay, we already have Ewing and Mourning.
Yeah,
we already have both of them, so I don't need.
Yeah, because I mean, this team is strong defensively, but you kind of with the reserve role, you want somebody that could also give you points, not added defense. So the guys that I had for consideration: Kevin Braswell, Othello Harrington, David Wingate, and Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, the point guard that got torched by Gary McLean.
By Gary McLean, yeah.
Even though he was coked up, but I don't know if cocaine helps you or hurts you. But still,
Kevin Braswell was really good. He was a really good point guard. Yeah,
he was. So what do you want to do?
I could go with David Wingate. I could go with David Wingate because he was a really, really good player, during that time. He wasn't my favorite Georgetown player during that time. I liked, Reggie Williams, and I liked
smooth.
But David Wingate, I know that this doesn't really pertain to what we're talking about here, but David Wingate was a very solid professional too. Played a long time in the NBA.
Very good defender. Off the bench.
But I could give you David Wingate, for the reserve.
I'm leaving it up to you.
Okay, we take David Wingate. So this one was relatively easy. Okay, and Georgetown, our lineup: Allen Iverson at point guard, Sleepy Floyd as shooting guard, Reggie Williams at small forward, Alonzo Mourning at power forward, Patrick Ewing at center, and David Wingate as a reserve.
Correct. That's pretty much what I had, and pretty much the tie the boat. The only people I had consideration were the 5 starters plus Wingate, Charles Smith, and Mutombo. That was it.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to number 11, the 11th seed, the Arizona Wildcats. 1997 national champion, 4 Final Four appearances, 26 consecutive tournament appearances, counting this year. Now, this one here, I think I can't make any predictions because a lot of my predictions have been wrong so far. When I thought that we would have a lot of dissension, we didn't. And when I think that whenever we kind of on the same page, we're not. So I'm just going to say it like this. Okay, it's my turn. This is my lineup for Arizona.
Okay.
Point guard, Mike Bibby. Shooting guard, Khalid Reeves. Small forward, Sean Elliott. Power forward, Sean Rooks. Center, Channing Frye, and my reserve is Damon Stoudemire with head coach Lew Alcindor.
We're close. We have a lot of similarities, but we have some big time differences as well. Because this one here was in a way kind of hard because
it was.
Like some teams are very front court heavy, whereas University of Arizona has always been backcourt dominant.
Yeah, very, very much.
They've always been backcourt dominant. They haven't really had a lot of transcendent bigs. At best, they had serviceable bigs. They didn't have game-changing bigs, you know.
No.
So without further ado, this is what I got. And a lot of this, I can concede a lot of this. Okay. To the two no-brainers for me was BB at the point and Sean Elliott at the 3. Those were the two no-brainers. You know, then I wound up having a 3-guard attack. I wound up having Miles Simon.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had Damon Stoudemire. But I strongly considered Khalid Reeves. I strongly considered him. You know, and I've never been a crazy fan of Damon Stoudemire's game. So you could talk me off of that one. And then, so for the starters, Elliott, Bibby, Simon, Stoudemire. And then for the big man, he played just one season, but he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. I had DeAndre Ayton as my center.
DeAndre Ayton
talked about that too.
I mean, DeAndre Ayton was a very, very good player at Arizona. I don't think that he was as important to his team as Channing Frye was when he was there. 13 points per game, 2-time All Pac-12. Just by the eye test, I would rather Channing Frye than DeAndre Ayton. That's just me. You know, just by pure eye test.
Well, let's will and deal.
Miles Simon, you know, Mike Bibby. As much as I love Mike Bibby, I can't take him off. I will fight to the death.
We're not taking. No.
Okay, because I cannot take my twin off this team because everybody say me and Mike Bibby kind of like the light back in the day.
No, you did. No, you did.
Khalid Reeves.
I'd rather him than Stoudemire. Being honest with you.
Okay. Sean Elliott at the 4. The only thing is that do you want to go with Sean Rooks at power forward?
Hell no, Sean Rooks was bum.
or have another guard? I would suggest Richard Jefferson.
He wasn't that great in college though. Okay, I forgot to tell you my 6th man, and I think this is kind of a no-brainer. Because it is the exact role he won the title, and it's the exact role that he served to win it. And he was great in the pros at it too. Probably the best in the business. Jason Terry was my.
I can see that. I can see going with this lineup: Mike Bibby, Khalid Reeves, Jason Terry, Sean Elliott, and Channing Frye.
Okay, so Bibby, Elliott. Okay, we got. So you want Bibby, Elliott, Reeves. Okay, because so Reeves and no Stoudemire, right? Because to me...
Yeah, we can discuss the reserve in a second, because I have Damon Stoudemire as a reserve.
Okay, and you're taking off Ayton in terms of the center, and you on Frye. Now, I'll just explain to you. I try my best not to get personal on here because I don't know these people personally.
Right.
But this is one of those Adolph Rupp situations where I have to remove my personal feelings aside.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I see a Channing Frye on TV. He is a cornball. You know what I mean? But we're talking basketball. I don't have to have dinner with him, nor do I have to run with him to pull women? Because we wouldn't pull nothing with him. You know what I mean? We wouldn't pull anything with him.
Okay.
You and I, you know, in the club by 10:45, we headed home at 11:15 with that clown with us. Or we'll pretend like we're going back home, drop him off,
and then go back to the club.
Now we can get something done now.
Right.
You know what I mean? That probably would be the play. You go back and say, well, we gonna call it a night. Drop him off at the house. Then you're like, you won't go back? Yes, we'll go back without this clown, and then maybe we can pull it now. You know what I mean? But because he's the one that'll talk you right out of what you got going. You're basically right on the goal line, and then he'll fumble it out the end zone for a touchback going the other way, man. You know. Okay. But anyway, so starting lineup. Elliott, Bibby, Reeves, and you got Fry, and you got Terry in the starting lineup.
Yes.
Okay. And then Stoudemire as the reserve.
Right.
Okay.
Now I could get talked out of now I could be talked out of Damon Stoudemire, even though he is one of the best guards in a guard heavy program. Collegiately, he was very good at Arizona. But I could be talked out of it, because these are the guys that I had in consideration. Steve Kerr, Jason Terry, Michael Dickerson, Richard Jefferson, and Miles Simon.
Okay. I had Kerr, Jason Gardner. I thought about Michael Dickerson for a split second, but I like that. That's not going to work. Richard Jefferson, I gave brief consideration to, threw that aside, and I also gave very, very brief consideration to Gilbert Arenas. Very brief.
Yeah.
And I was like, never mind. So to me, okay, Elliott, Bibby, Simon. I'm sorry, no Simon, right? So we got Elliott, Bibby, Terry,
Jason
Reeves,
Terry,
Fry, reserve, Damon Stoudemire with Lew Alcindor as the coach, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
So that's cool with me. That's cool with me.
Bibby, Khalid Reeves, Sean Elliott, Jason Terry, and Channing Frye.
Yes. That's cool with me.
And the reserve is Damon Stoudemire, and the head coach is Lew Alcindor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is the 11th seed Arizona Wildcats. And to wrap this up, we will go to the final team in our tournament entry, the 12th seed LSU Tigers, and 4 Final Four appearances, 10 appearances in the Sweet 16. The head coach, of course, we have is Dale Brown. Looking at this, and I'm going to let you go ahead, but I just wanted to get the elephant out of the room. Of course, it's Dale Brown. I'm sure heck wouldn't be Press Maravich.
Absolutely.
But the team that I have here could make a very serious Cinderella run because we got some absolute ballers on this team.
Ballers.
And it's one of those things where you think about it, but if you put them all together in something of an amalgamation of this program, you're like, whoa. Okay. So who did you have as your starters for LSU?
Starters for LSU. Got 4 no-brainers and another one, because the first 4 are just total no-brainers, At point guard, because they can both these guards can score and facilitate. At one guard, I got Chris Jackson, aka Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, this time 2-time SEC Player of the Year. Leading scorer in college both years, and all of that. At the other guard position, we got 3-time All-American. Average 44 a game, 44 and a half a game for his best season, averaged 44 a game for his career without a 3-point shot.
Without a 3-point shot.
Pistol Pete Maravich, baby.
Yep.
Very good pro career until great pro career, matter of fact, until his momentum was beset by knee injuries and so forth.
Yeah.
Center, no-brainer once
again.
No-brainer. The Diesel, Shaq. And just for the note, we both hip-hop fans. Shaq a better MC than most of these garbage rappers out right now.
Yeah.
He's better than 99% of them.
Facts. That's all. Facts.
Shaq
Absolute
is a better.
Fact.
I don't care what you young folks say. Shaq is a better spitter than 99% of these dudes now.
Right. Exactly. You no doubt about that.
At power forward, yet another no-brainer. Bob Pettit. Bob
the
Pettit,
prototype.
He averaged 27 a game for his career. His best season, he averaged 31 and 17. So, then the last one is a semi no-brainer, but kind of similar to a lesser degree of what we said about Johnny Dawkins, and who else were we referring to?
Pearl Washington.
Pearl Washington. He's the one that kind of, in a way, put got the Dale Brown LSU era heading positive in a positive direction, and that's none other than Rudy Macklin. Averaged 16, nearly 17 and 10 for his career. Best season averaged 19 and nearly 11. 4-time All SEC, Final Four appearance. He's the other guy. I can obviously be talked off of that one, but
okay,
in favor of whom, I don't know. Then my sixth man, once again, I'm relying on your tutelage and your insight to kind of help me troubleshoot this one. Candidate number one, High C, baby. Yep. High C, Howard Carter, one of my favorite ballers. We talked about him at length last episode, folks. Averaged 15, 4, and 1.8 assists for his career as a 6'5" guard. In other words, he was putting it up, So then averaged 17. His best season was 17.6, 4.7 rebounds, and nearly 2 assists a game with a steal. 3-time All SEC. And then my the other for strong consideration for that final spot is Dwayne Scales, because he was kind of instrumental, as well as Rudy Macklin, is kind of really putting LSU on the map. He averaged 16 and nearly 9 for his career, with his best season being 19 and 9. Now, other 3 people I had for strong consideration, I had Derek Taylor, who was a part of the 86 Final Four team, 2-time All SEC. Then we had Ethan Martin, who was also played alongside like Ethan Martin and High C for that 81 team. And then we had old John Hot Plate Williams. He was part of that 86 Final Four team that we kind of discussed that link last episode regarding the Dale Brown LSU era. And if you haven't listened to that, go check that out.
Yeah, please go check it out.
It's a treat. He averaged nearly 16 and 8 for his career. Best year was nearly 18 and 9. 2-time All SEC. And then obviously, no brainer, the coach, the motivational man himself, Dale Brown.
Yep. Mr. Getting It Done now.
Yes, sir.
My starting 5 is exactly. You can't go wrong. With none of this. Chris Jackson at point, for a career, 29 points per game, 4 assists per game, 2-time All-American, 2-time All-SEC, 2-time SEC Player of the Year. Pete Maravich, 44.4 points per game, 1970 AP Player of the Year, 3-time consensus All-American, 3-time SEC Player of the Year, 3-time All-SEC. Rudy Macklin, my small forward, 17 points per game, 10 rebounds per game. 81 consensus All-American, 81 SEC Player of the Year, 4-time All-SEC. Power forward, Bob Pettit, the prototype.
Yes, sir.
Prototype power forward. 27.4 points per game for a career, 14 rebounds a game, 2-time consensus All-American, 3-time All-SEC. And finally, Shaq Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal, 22 points per game, 14 rebounds per game, 2-time consensus All-American, 2-time SEC Player of the Year, 3-time All-SEC, and 2-time SEC All-Defense.
And averaged nearly 5 blocks.
Exactly. Now, the only difference that I have is at the reserve. Now, my reserve, I have Vernell Singleton. But I can be talked into High C, Howard Carter.
I considered Vernell Singleton, but I quickly dismissed him. But
you can't go wrong.
I wouldn't fight you. I'm not going to fight you on that, because he was kind of instrumental. I thought about John LSU teams, early 90s too.
Yeah, I considered John Williams. I considered Howard Carter, Ricky Blanton, Harold Boudreaux, and Ice Reynolds.
Oh, boy. Iceman Jerry Reynolds, man. You know how much I like the Iceman Jerry Reynolds now.
Yeah, but he could put it up. He could put the ball in the hoop. Boy, he could put it up.
It might need might need Vanell now that I think about it. Because Vanell will give us a little D. Because, Chris Jackson and Pete Maravich,
they're not playing defense. They're not playing defense.
So we might need Vanell Singleton now that we think about it. We need somebody that's going to defend and doesn't demand the ball.
Right.
Not worried about how many shots he gets.
Right. So I mean that's who I have. I have Vernell Singleton as the reserve, but I could be talked out of Vernell Singleton for somebody else.
Vernell Singleton is fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
So LSU's starting lineup: Chris Jackson, Pete Maravich, Rudy Macklin, Bob Pettit, Shaquille O'Neal, and the reserve is Vernell Singleton. All right, so that's it, man. That's our 12 teams, and we're gonna go through a little quick recap of the teams that we put together, and we're gonna get like a final thought on each one of these teams and what you think they can do, working together. Okay, first team, the number 1 seed overall is the UCLA Bruins. We have Gail Goodrich, Sidney Wicks, Keith Wilkes, Bill Walton, Lew Alcindor, and Ed O'Bannon. That's a pretty balanced squad, I really think. Balanced scoring. Sidney Wicks could be like one of those guys that he's like a John Starks, could shoot you into a game or shoot you out of one, but he does have the attitude that this team doesn't really have, because he was a very good defender, very, very spirited, very edgy type of player, and he had like the attitude that the other players didn't necessarily really have. But Wooden was the only one that could really keep him in check.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. Between Coach John Wooden, Lew Alcindor, a.k.a. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Bill Walton, they have to be the prohibitive favorite to win it. Even just the two of them alone, even if they had, I'm being hyperbolic, honestly.
Right.
Even if they had you, me now with the listener of our choice in the starting lineup, they still would be favored to win it.
Right.
Bill Walton and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Coach John Wooden coaching. That's just
right.
That's just a lot of heavy artillery to overcome that.
That it really is. I mean, the Wizard of Westwood could coach with pretty much anybody and be a legitimate threat to win it all. The number 2 seed, we have Kentucky, and the team that we came up with is Kyle Macy at point, Tony Delk at the shooting guard, Jamal Mashburn at small forward. We had Dan Issel at power forward and Anthony Davis at center, with Jack Goose Givens as a reserve.
Strong team.
Very strong.
Very strong team, but man, that Jabbar Walton combination because you got to figure John Wooden is worth 8 points, just him alone.
Yeah, right.
And then this is prior to Anthony in the pros when he became street clothes and he was coming out of games and going on injured list due to hangnails and so forth. But even with that, it may get a little rough for him, in there banging with those big guys like that. Of course,
but I tell you what, though, there's a lot of scoring here. With Delk, Mashburn, and Issel, there's a lot of scoring. They're going to be in a lot of games. They're going to be in a lot of games.
Yes, sir.
This lineup. Okay, with Adolph Rupp as the head coach. Third seed is UConn Huskies, and we have the starters for that. What we had came up with is point guard Kemba Walker, shooting guard Ray Allen, small forward Richard Jefferson, power forward Danielle Marshall, center Emeka Okafor, and the reserve Ben Gordon.
Good team.
Very good team.
Sunshine on their butt right on that day, but obviously to beat those other two teams, especially UCLA, if they play their best game and UCLA plays their best game, you still lose. So you're going to need to play your best game, and UCLA has to probably be hitting around 70% capacity to kind of open that door for them to slide in there.
And then Emeka Okafor, as good as he was in college, could he bang with Kareem? Could he bang with Bill Walton? And Danielle Marshall? Could they do that foreseeably? Don't know. I really don't think they could. I
No.
really don't. For North Carolina, this team here is sneaky good. Okay. Phil Ford, Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Sam Perkins, Tyler Hansborough, and Bob McAdoo. Again, a lot of scoring. A lot of scoring. And underrated point guard Phil Ford. 18 points per game, 7 assists per game, 3-time All-American, 1978 Wooden Award winner.
Okay. Their calling card is the following. You have at least 3 guys. If they get hot enough and Dean stays out of the way and it doesn't lock them in the barn, you got 3 guys who could win a game alone.
Right.
Especially, and you got 3 guys that can get you 45, 50, and James Worthy, Jordan, or Bob McAdoo. If you don't lock him in the barn, you got 3 guys that can up their game.
If you just let them run, just let them run.
And then you got Sam Perkins. He can stretch the floor a little bit.
Sam Perkins and Tyler Hansborough can stretch the floor.
Yeah, Tyler Hansborough, Psycho T. Regardless of his success, he's going to give you everything he has, and he's going to give you a full night's work every time. And that so they got a good chance.
Okay, Dean Smith, of course, is what we have as head coach of North Carolina. The 5th seed, Indiana, the team that we came up with. Isaiah Thomas at point, Steve Alford at the shooting guard. We have Scott May at small forward, Kent Benson at power forward, Walt Bellamy at center, and Calbert Chaney as a reserve head coach, of course, Bob Knight. This team is one of those teams that if you get trapped in a low scoring, drag it out, down in the mud type of game, Indiana has a legitimate shot. If they're the team that if they make it ugly, you got problems.
Yes, because if they can make it ugly, especially, and kudos to you with the addition of Walt Bellamy, they have a chance. Without Walt Bellamy, they have no shot. Without Walt Bellamy, but then to your point, it's also one of those deals where if you can kind of make it where it's not necessarily a battle of skills, but a battle of wheels, poise, and execution, that's where the general really can work his magic.
Right.
Under those circumstances. But conversely, this is also a team that can be upset by those lower seeded teams.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very good team, but not necessarily a very strong team.
They can be upset because you got to figure, okay, looking at all of these back, the remaining seeds, I would say, with the exception of Arizona, all of the remaining seeds got a shot, and probably at least half of them would be favored over them. So interesting.
6th seed is Kansas University, KU. So this is what we had: point guard JoJo White, shooting guard Paul Pierce, small forward Danny Manning, power forward Rafe LaFrance, center Wilt Chamberlain, and reserve Clyde Lavellet, head coach Bill Self. The wild card in this is Clyde Lavellet, and let me tell you a little bit something about him. He's a lot like a Bob Pettit, only a little bit more bulky. He's a banger. He's like in more of a more contemporary vein. He's a lot like, with this very same team, he's like a Greg Ostertag, but could score and had skills. Okay, but he's a center, but he could bang inside. He has some girth. He has some bulk. He's a space eater, as Bill Raftery we would say. And you combine that with JoJo, with the smooth playmaking and shooting of JoJo White, shooting of Paul Pierce, Danny Manning's, play as being versatile as where he was, Rafe LaFrance, who could not only bang inside, but he could also drop behind the 3-point line and could hit some shots from long range. And then you got Wilt inside. This is a team that can go far. With the extreme X factor of Wilt Chamberlain down low.
Yes, if you got the Big Dipper, you got a shot at all times. If you got the Big Dipper. Now, Danny Manning, I think my only problem with this is the way the lineup is constructed. The tweener attributes of Manning and Pierce may come into play. Because, depending on the lineup, Manning may be a bit on the small side to match up with certain forwards, and then he certainly would be at a disadvantage of certain. He's at small forward. I'm sorry.
Small forward.
He would definitely probably be at a disadvantage defensively at 3, and then the same might hold true for Pierce at the 2. Because just imagine Paul Pierce trying to chase around the pistol or Chris Jackson, man. And then
that could be a problem. That definitely could be a problem.
He has the size advantage on offense, but you got the eraser in like Shaq and Pettit, or if you play UCLA, he got the size advantage, but you got Walton and Alcindor. So they're gonna kind of troubleshoot that a little bit. But very, very good team, because when you got a man. Now, I know we're not supposed to factor in what they did in the pros, but when you got a man that could average 50 for the season, you always got a shot.
Exactly. Who was it that said that? I think it was Frank McGuire. It said that Kansas could win the national championship with Wilt Chamberlain, 2 managers, and 2 cheerleaders, and still win the national title. But unfortunately, he didn't, because in 56, Kansas lost to North Carolina in 56, in that triple overtime game in Kansas City. 7 seed, the Duke Blue Devils, the one that we had probably the most difference on. Point guard, we have Jay Williams, shooting guard, Johnny Dawkins, small forward, Grant Hill, power forward, Danny Ferry, center, Christian Laettner, and our reserve is Shane Battier. From just first glance, a very hard-nosed, typically tough Duke team who's a lot of jump shooters. We got a slasher in Grant Hill. Jay Williams is a great, smooth point guard. Johnny Dawkins, all around great talent. And, of course, Mike Krzyzewski's going to get them ready. He's going to find something, and whoever they're playing against, he's going to find a weakness. And Duke will exploit it. And especially you have somebody like Shane Battier coming off the bench with his just intangibles, that he is Mr. Intangible with Shane Battier. If you need an offensive rebound, he'll get it. If you need a key 3-pointer, he'll give it to you. If you need a good defensive stop, he's going to give it to you, So that was in Shane Battier is essentially, in my opinion, the personification of what Duke is all about as a basketball program.
Yes. And then looking at this team, they're a bit undersized in the backcourt.
They are very, very undersized in the backcourt.
When you look at them in totality, however, they cover all of the boxes. Because if you want to look at talent, okay, if you make a draft of all of these players based on who they were in college, Laettner, Hill, Williams, perhaps even Ferry, they're going to be up there pretty much. And another key component to this is these guys, they cover all of your bases. You want inside play, Ferry and Laettner can give you a little bit of that. They can play make. They can face up and make plays. Johnny Dawkins and Jay Williams, they're good one-on-one players. They can shoot. They can finish around the basket. Grant Hill, he can do everything plus defend. Shane Battier too. He can do a little bit of everything. So they have everything you need. But the main thing that sticks out with these guys, this is really one of the first teams that to beat them, you're going to have to outplay them in order to beat them.
Yeah.
They're not going to beat themselves, and they're not going to hand you a ball game.
No,
You know,
you have to beat them, and you have to be smart about it.
you have to beat them.
And
Yes.
and it's one of those things where in the typical Duke team, we talked about this game earlier when they played Maryland and they were down with 11 points with like less than a minute to go and
Correct.
in College Park in your neck of the woods in
Mhm.
2000, was it 2001?
It was like
And
2001-ish. Yes.
yeah, and Duke came back and won that game, you know,
You know,
and they basically took it from them. You cannot, with this team, especially with this lineup, you cannot leave a crack, because if you leave a crack, they will exploit it and they will take the game from you. They're not going to lose a game.
no.
You got to beat them.
You're going to have to beat them for 40 minutes. And to your point, they're the type of team you're like, okay, we got more talent than these dudes. These dudes are easy. The next thing you know, you lost the ball game. And you just thinking days later, just at random, and you're like, "How the hell did we lose to them?"
Right, exactly.
You can't
Exactly.
figure it out. They win games they have no business losing, and you can outplay them and still lose because they're not going to beat themselves. And to your point, if you make any mistakes, they're going to capitalize and make you pay a dear price for those mistakes.
The 8th seed is Michigan State Spartans, and the team that we put together: point guard Magic Johnson, shooting guard Steve Smith, small forward Morris Peterson, power forward Greg Kelser, center Draymond Green, and our reserve is the great Sean Respert. Tom Izzo, the head coach. This team, a typical Izzo type team, but the only difference is you got a 6'9" point guard who on any given night could play any position on the floor, including center.
And he's the guy, that can not only elevate himself,
but elevate everybody around him.
He can elevate everybody around him and make his players and teammates so much better, and make his coach a genius, because he's also a coach on the floor.
Right.
So,
and I think he's the only one that can keep Draymond Green in line.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because when Draymond Green was at the university, was at Michigan State, he was known as the dancing bear. He was about maybe 30 pounds heavier than what he is now.
Correct.
And he was like a banger inside. The only thing with him is that he's only 6'8",
6'8", 6'7"ish.
Yeah, and he could just bang people and stuff like that. But he did have a really sweet outside shot. This is a very athletic team, okay, with some really good shooters with Respert and Peterson and Smith. There's some really good shooters. Greg Kelser, even though he's playing power forward, he's a slasher, and he could take other power forwards off the dribble easily, and then you have the ultimate guy in Magic Johnson, the ultimate mismatch and Magic Johnson playing point, So this team has a lot of very interesting advantages.
And another key point about those guys, they have another guy who can also do a lot of those things as well. Now, obviously, to a much lesser degree of proficiency is Magic can, but a guy in Steve Smith, like, you need scoring, he can do it. You need rebounding, he can do it. You need him, like if Magic wants to kind of take a break from playmaking responsibilities and focus more on scoring, you got a guy who can still, to a much lesser degree, obviously, make the people around him better and facilitate to allow Magic to shift into that score role. So, and then Tom Izzo, same type of thing with Tom Izzo, especially if you can keep Draymond under control. They're not going to beat themselves if they can keep Draymond under control. You're going to have to beat them too.
Yep. So number 9, Syracuse, and the team that we came up with is Syracuse Orange. Point guard Dwayne Pearl Washington, shooting guard Dave Bing, small forward Carmelo Anthony, power forward Derek Coleman, center Ronnie Cycli, and the reserve is Lawrence Moten. Just one word to pretty much solidify this team, to describe this team: scoring, scoring, scoring. This team is loaded with scorers. Carmelo, Dave Bing, Pearl Washington, These guys can score points. And Lawrence Moten coming off the bench. These are some very high power scorers, for Jim Boeheim. Coleman and Cycli, the ultimate question is can they handle somebody like a Walton and a Alcindor down low, or could they handle Pettit and Shaq down low? That's the only question. They could be a little bit light in the cakes down there, even though Coleman is a bigger guy. Does he have the skills to compete with that, to really match up with the other centers that we have on these teams?
Yes, I agree with that. They're a bit undersized in the front court, but I think their chances come down to one thing only. Does Derek Coleman feel like it today?
True. True.
Pretty much, because he even exhibited some of those attributes while he was in college. It's like, okay, if he feels like being bothered today, he can be the best player on the court if he feels like it.
Yeah.
Then he'll come right back. It's okay. I mean,
Cycli
let
down
me know
low.
we can go home.
Yeah, Cycli. For all of his career at Syracuse, a very, very solid low post player. Very solid. Had the little sweet turnaround jumper down low from between 10, 15 feet out. Good rebounder. Just a very, very solid player for Syracuse. Lawrence Moten, scorer personified.
Now, key caveat with these guys, unlike what we described intangible wise for Duke and Michigan State, they are the total inverse.
Yes,
they will hand you a game on a silver platter.
Right.
But between the players as well as Jim Boeheim himself, they will give away a game in a minute.
Yeah.
So
now, I mean, you really can't say that with like Dave Bing and Pearl Washington. You really can't say that. True. You can't say that with for sure Pearl Washington and Dave Bing. You can't. True. But Carmelo, again, could shoot you into a game and shoot you out of one. Derek Coleman is whether he wants you to or not. Cycli, great player. Does he have enough offensively?
Yes. So probably middle of the road. If they're really on,
they could beat anybody.
Possibly beat anyone. But if they're not, they can possibly lose to anybody.
They can lose to anybody and lose big.
Correct.
Okay. Next one. The 10th seed, the Georgetown Hoyas. And this is the team that we had the most correct with.
Correct.
The most in common with, I should say. Point guard Allen Iverson, shooting guard Sleepy Floyd, small forward Reggie Williams, power forward Alonzo Mourning, center Patrick Ewing, and the reserve that we kind of put our heads together with, and we came up with David Wingate. Again, typical Georgetown team, heavily defensive. With Iverson and Sleepy Floyd in the backcourt, you got two guys that on any given night could drop you 30, 35 on any given night. Both players are going to pretty much feed off of each other. And then on the other end of the court, you got Mourning and Ewing, patrolling the inside. These two is the only ones that I really foresee them giving a real significant challenge to Walton and Alcindor down low, any kind of real significant threat, but not much of a threat. Now that there had a battle between Ewing and Alcindor, I would pay to see that. I would love to see what that would look like. Alcindor from the days at UCLA and Ewing from the 80s, who could out intimidate the other?
Ewing, when he used to wear that T-shirt under the jersey band, good Lord, man. And then Mourning, but Mourning is kind of like
it's sort of like a Derek Coleman.
Kind of no, he plays hard every night.
Okay,
he plays hard every night, but he's kind of like I was,
he's hot-headed. He's hot-headed.
Throw hands, and
right.
I can guarantee you, who's not going to mess with him. I guarantee you Draymond Green wouldn't even try it once.
No.
With him.
No.
I promise you he wouldn't. But this is a team, they can mount the physical challenge, but just overall, not only in terms of natural physicality, physically, but also in terms of style of play, they just tough, in your face all the time, and physical. Will they be able to grind other teams to a halt physically as well as mentally? Because that mental pressure, someone in your face just over and over again, bumping your elbow, and you just it gets, if you're not tough enough and know how to play through contact, it throws you off and it gets old after a while. And and if you don't have the right amount of poise nor heart, you tap out mentally. And then once you tap out mentally, you're pretty much gone. So this is the team that can really mount a serious challenge, because they got inside play, they got the scoring. They're a little light in terms of shooting, with the exception of Reggie Williams. Now, Patrick Ewing could shoot from outside, but we're talking college. He didn't develop that portion of his game until well into his New York Knicks tenure in the pros. Mourning always had some face-up capabilities, but with these guys, man, the shot blocking, and what you also have to take into account, not only the shot blocking, but the altered shots that the two of them generate due to their intimidation and their shot blocking abilities. Very, very strong dark house candidate. Very strong.
No, number 11, Arizona. And I would say, as much as I like Arizona, they're maybe the weakest team in this field. Mike Bibby, Khalid Reeves is the lineup. Mike Bibby at point, Khalid Reeves at the small forward as a shooting guard, Jason Terry, Sean Elliott at the power forward, Channing Frye at center, Damon Stoudemire at the reserve. Very, very guard heavy, very, very small. They're athletic as all get out. They are. But they don't have enough, I think, down low, at least, for sure. They're going to have to get into, they're one of those teams that they're going to have to dictate tempo, and they would have to dictate tempo the whole game. And it has to be up tempo the whole game in order for them to advance, I think. Now you got the horses, Bibby, Khalid Reeves, Elliott, and Jason Terry. They could do that. But if they get into a slowdown game, they could be in big, big trouble.
To me, they are without question the weakest team in the field, without question.
Yeah.
And like you said, they have some talented players and things like that, but playing on the West Coast and playing that Pac-10 style of ball, first of all, you got Channing Frye at center. That's just not going to work in all likelihood. Then secondly, as we just discussed, Georgetown, tough, physical, in your face all the time.
Yeah.
They're the antithesis of that. They're not really a physical team in terms of things like intangibles. They have a lot of tangible talent, but in terms of the intangibles, pretty much the only thing in terms of intangibles that they have is perhaps Bibby and Terry in terms of the timing, because they always had a tendency, Bibby would have maybe 16, 17 points for the whole game. Mm-hmm. But 6 of those points, the timing of those points would come at the most essential time. Right. And same held true for Terry. Terry might have 11 points, but he'll hit 3 buckets in the final 5 minutes that puts it away, and things like that. So, it's, definitely this group is going to be an uphill climb, I project, for these guys.
Right. Then the final seed, then the last team, the last entry, the 12th seed LSU Tigers. The lineup that we have: point guard Chris Jackson, shooting guard Pete Maravich, small forward Rudy Macklin, power forward Bob Pettit, center Shaquille O'Neal, Vernell Singleton coming off the bench, coached by Dale Brown. Next to UCLA, this might be the most star-studded lineup in the entire field.
Absolutely.
the most star-studded. I mean, because, and this is just, and we just included LSU for most part because we just did an episode about LSU. Plus, that's our home state, so we
Yes.
wanted to include LSU. And just looking at what LSU had, LSU sure has never won a national championship. They've come close. They've gotten as far as the national semifinals. Okay. But they've all had all of these players, for the most part, never really played, with the exception of Chris Jackson and Shaq, they never really played together at the same time. Chris Jackson and Shaquille O'Neal, they played late 80s, early 90s. Pete Maravich played in the late 60s, early 70s. Rudy Macklin, late 70s, early 80s. Bob Pettit, you got to go back to the 50s for him. So they've never played together, but collectively, they make probably, next to UCLA, the second strongest team in the field.
Absolutely. They are, without question, talent from a talent perspective, the second most talented field team in the field. But to your point, the key is going to be cohesion because, we know, like, for example, we know, like, for example, we're both hip hop heads, right?
Yeah.
For example, just recently, this year, Nas and DJ Premier from Gangstar had an album. That's like a meeting of the Titans. You know what I mean? And that's just something that the hip hop community always wanted for 30 years. But then when we finally got it, it was like,
right.
It's all right, but
it's all right, but it could have been so much better.
Whereas on the other end, a couple years before, Pete Rock and Common got together another version of the Superpowers, and it worked well. So it could go either of these two ways. It's like, okay, because it'll be like, okay, imagine if you had a group with, if you had a group with Nas, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One, Pete Rock, and DJ Premier on the beats, Lord Finesse on the beats. Come on, hip hop heads, work with me. You think on paper that would look good, but sometimes all of that talent doesn't mesh well together. And the key is going to be, for these guys, can they mesh together? Secondly, who's going to take a back seat? Because off rip, they're going to have a hard time in terms of cohesion because both Chris Jackson and Pete Maravich have never met a shot that they don't like. You know what I mean? So that's going to be very hard.
That's the thing. You bring up a great point, Chuck, because this is a team that, just looking at it, I could see them, who's going to take the last shot. If it comes down to who's taking the last shot, Chris Jackson? Is it Pete? Is it Shaq? Or maybe a situation where Chris Jackson and Pete Maravich pass too much. You got to think about that too. Is that one, kind of like giving way to the other too much? Correct. Chris Jackson, as good as he is and as great of a scorer he is, he tended, if you look back at his career, not only in the college but pro, sometimes he passed up good shots to get everybody else involved, and he would try too much with this team, with as much star powers on this team. Okay, then you got Bob Pettit, who is Hall of Famer, collegiate Hall of Famer, 27 points per game. You got to find a way, Dale Brown would, and that's asking a lot of Dale Brown, to get all of these people involved in the offense and make them feel like they're the centerpiece. And that's going to be very hard to do. But if Dale Brown let them go, they could beat anybody, including UCLA, I think.
Correct. And then you have to factor in, like, okay, you're just looking at these averages, like from Chris and Pete Maravich alone, 29 a game and 44 a game from Pete Maravich game after game. That's just not going to work. They're going to have to bring that down some. Now, there may be instances where they need to turn it up a little bit, or maybe you can be smart, or, like a lot of times, like if I was coaching the team, for example, Vanell Singleton would be probably my most key component from the standpoint of He's not the star, but he can give you a little defense. He can give you a little scoring. He can give you some rebounding. He doesn't need the ball. He would allow you to stagger some of these minutes. Like, for instance, I would probably split up, cut in half the amount of time Pete and Chris on the floor at the same time.
Right.
And conversely, there would be times I would probably reduce by 20% the amount of time that Shaq and Bob Pettit is on the floor at the same time too.
Right.
So you can kind of still let everybody
this lineup is actually very, very versatile. You got guys that can play multiple positions.
Correct. And you can still be able to get your best out of them and have each of them as the focal point for very small runs for like maybe 4 to 6 minutes at a time. Because obviously you can't make a living. I'm not going to sit Chris out 10 minutes and we're not going to win like that. But maybe 5 minutes here and there. Okay, Pete, Chris out the game. Look for your shot. Same thing. Okay, we're going to pull Shaq out a little bit, especially if we're playing a team that doesn't have the bigs or whatever. Okay, we're going to Bob next 4 or 5 minutes. Bob, we're going to need you to turn it up just a little bit for us. And maybe you can get by like that. But then also similar to Syracuse, this is also a team that will give away a game.
Yeah,
including Coach Brown. They will
give away a game, right? They'll
have UCLA beat, and then you look it up like we had them, and somehow it got away from us. They'll do that too. Between Shaq's free throw shooting and all of that, propensity to lose games that you should have won.
Right. And we're gonna close out with this, right? Okay, to close out the tournament, we got to let everybody know who's playing who in the first round.
Let's roll.
Okay. So, as we stated at the beginning, UCLA, Kentucky, UConn, and North Carolina have the 4 byes. So, the remaining teams will play in the first round. These are the first round matchups. Number 5, Indiana will open up against LSU. Boy, does that bring back memories.
Yes.
Indiana, once again, Bob Knight looking across the court, and he sees Dale Brown. We got a shot. We got a shot. Number 6, Kansas. They will open up against Arizona. Right out the gate, Arizona gets a bad matchup. But quite frankly, what we just talked about, anybody against Arizona could be a bad matchup.
Correct.
Okay. Number 7, Duke against Georgetown.
That's the best matchup of the first round. And these are two teams that could win it all, and somebody is going home in the first round.
Yep, exactly. Another really good matchup is the 8-9 matchup, Michigan State and Syracuse.
Yes, but they have Magic. They have Izzo. Got to give them the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have in the next episode, we're going to have all of the results, what I'm going to think, who I think is going to win, who Chuck thinks is going to win, why, all of that in the next episode. And plus, we're going to compare our results to AI. We're going to put the lineups and everything in AI and have them conjure up, or whatever they do, conjure up who's going to go through the tournament and win the championship. And all that's coming up on episode 2 of this Historically Speaking Sports Alumni Tournament. Chuck, once again, it was so good to have you on here once again. And we're going to close things out right after this short break. You're listening to the Historically Speaking Sports Podcast here on the Sports History Network. And that will do it for this episode of the Historically Speaking Sports Podcast. Thank you once again for joining us. This podcast comes to you from the Bill King Memorial Studio in the sports wing of TM4 Enterprises, located in suburban Atlanta in the shadow of Stone Mountain. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. And also, please hit that subscribe button so you can get new episodes whenever they do come out. And as always, tell people about us. Please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell your neighbors. Hell, tell a passerby on the street if you think that they like sports history. Also, if you want to contact the program, please email us at historically.speaking.sports@gmail.com. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.